and some liberal. Um, as I mentioned to my pre-audience on YouTube, we're going to be having kind of an open forum of sorts. Fortunately, today is not a big news day, and some folks like that. Some folks like that. Make no mistake about it. Under President Biden, most news days were not that big. It was not a lot of controversial news days under President Biden. There's been a lot under President Trump, and looks like today is not one of them. Today, most of the news is revolved around the issues coming out of Rome in regards to the Pope. So not a big news day. So I thought today would be a perfect day to have some of you folks come on the program, and particularly MAGA. You know, I like to hear from MAGA and speak your mind on the program. Liberals are always welcome on the program, but I do want to hear from as much MAGA as possible because I'm trading. I like to keep this show as open and as we take content from both sides. I lean center left, but damn it, that does not mean your politics are not welcome here, regardless of what they may be. But the problem currently is President Trump is our commander in chief. He's doing a lot of things that are controversial, and criticism of Trump can cause MAGA to stray away. I want as many MAGA viewers as possible. Now, I'm getting more liberal viewers because we're criticizing Trump, but I don't want it to be a one-sided show. I prefer both sides be there. So I'm going to have you folks speak your mind. If you see things on the show that you feel are worthy of criticizing, I'll take a few compliments or comments as well, but predominantly the criticism is what I want to hear. So you criticize the show in any way, fashion, or form. You know the host, we don't censor anyone here. So if you got criticism of yours truly, damn it, I want to hear it, and I'll respect it no matter what it is. That's kind of how we do the program here. So we're gonna have an open forum from that standpoint. But in addition to that, a couple other topics. We come with multiple topics. I want to talk about, does it appear as if America, or at least a hell of a lot of us, seem to be rooting for the bad guy? What do we mean by rooting for the bad guy? We're not talking about the president. This is not about the commander-in-chief when we say root for the bad guy. Although I'm sure a hell of a lot of liberals and independents could probably make a case for Trump being a bad guy as well. What am I talking about? Well, in addition to the killers of Tyre Nichols, the African-American that was beaten to death by 5 policemen on video in Memphis, there's also been a lot of other cases recently. Obviously, the death of Austin Metcalf by Carmelo Anthony is another case. Excuse the noise in the background, but Carmelo Anthony taking the life of Austin Metcalf. A hell of a lot of people are rooting for Carmelo Anthony to the point where he's raised almost $500,000 in donations for his legal defense. We've heard of, I don't know what the guy's name is. Somebody in the comments let me know. But there is an African American whose son was in the midst of committing a major felony and was armed. The police took the life of his son, and he went out, got in his car, and found a random patrol officer, struck him with his car, taking that officer's life. Hell of a lot of people are rooting for the father that ran over and took the life of a random patrol officer. Random officer doing traffic duty. Hell of a lot of folks are rooting for that dad. That's another case. Now, in addition to that, before folks start talking about black folks are going crazy, there's a Caucasian woman. Now, she didn't commit an act of murder or anything seriously violent, but apparently she was caught on video yelling out a racial slur, I believe at a kid that was around 5. So she's like a Karen on steroids. She called a little young kid, if I'm correct, the N-word. She was on social media. People tend to plaster your face all over social media, and that usually can hurt your image. In this woman's case, money started pouring in. This woman so far has raised about $600,000. Her only claim to fame is she yelled the N-word at a young kid, at a kindergartner, rooting for the bad guy. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about rooting for the bad guy. In addition, one of the bigger, more well-known cases, obviously Luigi Mangione, taking the life of the United Health CEO. Luigi has now crossed the $1 million mark. More than $1 million has come in for the defense of Luigi Mangione, who is literally on video, very similar to the killers of Tyre Nichols and the woman yelling a racial slur. All of that's on video, and these folks are raising a killing in terms of finances. And then, of course, we can go back a bit further. And DenCal, appreciate the galaxy. Thank you, DenCal. And, of course, we can go back further, and we can bring up everyone from Ashley Babbitt, even though she didn't raise any, there was no money raised for her. President Trump has continued speaking favorably of Ashley Babbitt, the January 6th protester who was trying to climb in through a smashed out window and hopefully get her hands on one of the members of Congress or the Senate. Kyle Rittenhouse is another. You know what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. Folks, rooting for the bad guy. Now, look, at the end of the day, we can debate whether Kyle Rittenhouse was a good guy or not, but his actions, some might suggest, lead otherwise. George Zimmerman, in a little bit, going back a bit further, George Zimmerman, and even a guy, some of you folks may not be aware of who Daniel Perry is, but he's a guy who who incentivized a Black Lives Matter protester to come his way. He shot and killed a guy. He ended up getting a murder sentence, but Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardoned Daniel, I believe it's Perry. Not to be confused with Daniel Penny, the Marine who choked out an African American on a subway in New York. And once again, people were rooting for him as well. Does it not seem like in America, we are rooting for the bad guy? In all of these cases, folks go to their respective corners and start rooting for folks. A lot of these are cold-blooded murder. Some of these cases are literally cold-blooded murder. I'm going to assume that you would feel that way about Luigi Mangione, right? I mean, Luigi Mangione is literally popping the guy in the back. Same would apply to Tyre Nichols. You got 5 cops beating one dude who's not even resisting. Why are we rooting for the bad guys in some of this stuff? I haven't heard anyone yet rooting for the cops in the Tyre Nichols case, but I gotta assume that is indeed coming. Last but not least, and I see what the comments are, Eddie Willington, somebody says, same with voting for Trump. I don't quite get what you mean there. But last but not least, you've heard about all of these protests. We're talking about Gaza, we're talking about Hamas, we're talking about Palestine, we're talking about against Israel. And you're hearing that the Trump administration is certainly going after everyone from immigrants that are in these protests up to and including some of the Ivy League colleges for allowing the protest to take place on their campus. I'm gonna ask a simple question, because President Trump is suggesting that, whether it is Jewish students being harassed on campus or things of that nature, Trump is suggesting that those schools should not have federal funding and should be dealt with because they are letting the protests get out of hand on their campuses and doing little to nothing for, let's say, the Jewish students or some of the other folks. I have to bring this up because President Trump is undoubtedly responsible, or at the very least partially responsible, for what is likely to go down as one of the worst protests in U.S. history. Is he the man to hold a university or any other entity accountable for letting the protests get out of hand and not provide protection for those who are being harassed? Talking about President Trump suggesting that the universities are not doing enough for students that are being harassed and they're protesting for the wrong cause. And he literally is likely to go down in history as the orchestrator of one of the worst protests in American history. Does this fit in the category of calling the kettle black Or am I getting this completely wrong? I want to hear from you folks on that. So those are our topics as always. We're certainly going to allow people to speak their mind today. You can be critical of the show. If you've been watching for any length of time, you see things that are wrong, unbiased, unfair, whatever the case may be. The host, if you think the host is full of shit, come on up to the box and you can certainly get your point across, your opinion across without any concern of the host trying to limit your time or censor your free speech. Now, obviously, if it's something stupid, if you just want to come on and yell the N-word or something like that, for the sake of the platform, I can't let that happen. But if you want to come on and really tear into the host or other folks in the comments for something you may have been concerned about, you're welcome to do that. We don't block, ban, or censor, so understand that. So looking in the comments right off the bat, and by the way, tap the screen. We're on it a little bit early today, so tap the screen, get the likes up to about 10,000. It helps out the algorithm on TikTok. If you're watching on Instagram or YouTube, appreciate you coming on as well. Superman in the house says, I don't know what that means. I always remember January 6th. Yeah, I don't think there's any way for January 6th to not be remembered. Ashley Babbitt's family did get a payment. That is true, Zach Built. That's what we're talking about, rooting for the bad guy. Ashley Babbitt's family sued the government for a whopping sum of $30 million that the government has settled. We don't know what the number is, but the government has settled with the family of Ashley Babbitt. Rooting for the bad guy is what we're talking about. Dencal, good evening and welcome to the program. Good to have you on this afternoon.
Yeah.
Hey. So, do you see it like I'm suggesting where it's starting to look like we're rooting for bad guys here?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have always kind of done that. I mean, it's kind of more obvious and in your face right now, but, anybody who's been accused of doing something that's been racially insensitive, they always get backing from their people. Whoever believed that the stuff they're doing, just like somebody was just in the chat saying, why shouldn't the lady who was yelling at an autistic 5-year-old, calling them the N-word, that's the same thing as what happened with Carmelo. Now, we don't know everything that happened with Carmelo because it got to go to court. We got to see all of the evidence, how the situation played out. Everybody's got their assumption about what actually happened. They think a black dude just jumped up out of nowhere and just, stabbed somebody, which we know that that's not how it went down. So,
go ahead.
Trying to compare that to a video of a woman, throwing racial slurs at a 5-year-old is not the same thing.
No. I mean, there's no legitimate excuse for throwing racial slurs at a 5-year-old. But in regards to the Carmelo Anthony thing, like you said, these are not the same. Putting on my devil's advocate hat and taking the other side of this, some would say it's worse than Cal. I mean, he literally plunged a knife or some type of sharp instrument into the heart of I don't want to say a fellow student because I don't think they were the same, a peer, into one of his peers. He plunged the knife into his heart. And have you seen anything that indicates that Carmelo Anthony's life was in danger at all?
That's what I'm saying. We don't have the information. We don't have enough information to say, okay, he was some cold-blooded killer who just happened to be somewhere and just stab somebody for no reason. There was a reason why he stabbed the dude. We don't know what it is. We don't know all of the information. We've got different witnesses saying different things. So I'm just saying we don't know. So for somebody to say, okay, well, we're going to help support this person in their defense because we don't know is different from somebody who has already been adjudicated or the woman who we already know exactly what she did because it's on video. Those are two different things.
Well,
equate everything that, okay, as soon as it's a black and a white person, okay, the black person is guilty automatically, but then the white person is not guilty. Like, that's the way we going.
Yeah. Hey, wait, I mean, so do you believe that is all based on racism? Taking the side of the white person or taking the side of the black person?
I mean, it is. I mean, we can see that. You can scroll through your chat, and everybody who's on the ladies' side is saying that, oh, what she did wasn't a crime and it's not a big deal that she,
But if you're
was trying
saying
to pass it.
this, but if you're saying automatically taking the side of the white person or taking the side of the black person is predominantly based on racism, then you are indeed admitting that there's a hell of a lot of black racists out there too. Because a lot of black people, I mean, like for instance, with the guy who don't ran over an innocent cop, and that cop was innocent because he had nothing to do with the death of his child, a hell of a lot of blacks are rooting for this father.
And why are they rooting for him?
Why are they rooting for him taking the life of a totally innocent police officer?
Right.
Hatred of police.
Okay, so there's a crime of passion that happened in historical issue that, yes, black people do automatically take the offensive when it comes to these issues because we've seen it over decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, but then, Cal, wouldn't we accept that coming from the other direction? Let's say, for instance, a white person
We
is.
do.
Hold on.
We do all the time.
How?
We accept it. We don't have no choice. When these people continue to get off on crimes, when we watch the January 6 people walk away, when we watch all of this stuff, when we watch Rodney King, when we watch those police officers walk, yes, we see it all the time.
We didn't accept what happened to Rodney King. I mean, we tore up multiple cities all over the country.
Exactly. And what do you think should happen? When nothing happens, then we accept
But
the status
based
quo.
on what you're saying, nothing happens. So what do you expect folks to do? Based on that statement, then you should understand. Let's say, for instance, an old white guy sitting around watching Fox News, and he is sick and tired of seeing African Americans going in CVS or Walgreens and mob robbing the place, and he gets sick and tired of them going to court and getting let out and getting nothing happening, as you put it. Would you accept that old white guy going into CVS and the next time you see some kids robbing and you start blasting them? Because that's what you're talking about.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Because you're taking away the whole historical context. If an old white dude is sitting there watching Fox News complaining about black people getting away with shit, he has no understanding of the historical significance of why the hell they're doing it in the first place.
You telling me there's historical significance to going in CVS and robbing of everything that's in there?
No. That's like saying in the middle of a nuclear holocaust, somebody kills a dog. Like you're taking the whole thing out of context. You're using this one situation and saying, why the hell are people like that when the people have been beat down and battered for goddamn centuries? And you saying, why are they like that? Why are they historically poor? Why has redlining put them all in these certain areas, condemning them to a life of poverty, and then you say, well, why are they impoverished?
Well, then, Cal, I got to push back a little bit. I mean, with all due respect, we are in 2025. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Wait, hold on, hear me out.
My gangster grandma on you.
I know that's coming. Trust me. I know me taking the other side of these issues, I'm going to get my ass kicked this whole live. But let me just say this. We are in 2025. I personally grew up on the south side of Chicago. Part of my life, I was part of a single mom family and all of that. And we grew up poor. Welfare was in the picture and all that. And yet I was able to get multiple college degrees. I don't have a criminal history at all. We can't blame the actions of the past on all of these folks that are choosing to, rob, steal, deal drugs and all of that in 2025, can we?
Well, it sounds like you pretty much jumping on the side of, we had a black president, we can't.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I get how it sounds. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but I am to the point where I'm asking someone standing on the street with a Glock and an extendo clip talking about they got to deal drugs to feed their family. In 2025, do you believe racism is still causing that much strife that you can't get a job doing anything but dealing drugs in 2025?
I believe the causes of those things still exist. Maybe not the overt racism, but when you have decades of generational plight of to a people just because you and I are exceptions to the rule doesn't mean
We're not though. No, no,
We are.
no. Trump said he borrowed $1 million from his dad to become a bit. That's an exception to the rule. We just decided I'm not going to go out and commit crimes. I'm going to get an education, which everyone in my class in my neighborhood had that opportunity. Some folks just chose to go for get rich quick schemes, and it ended up putting them in the grave or putting them in prison.
Come on, you are trivializing the plight of decades and decades of people. You are saying because you made it out and those opportunities. It's some people, yes, the opportunities are there, but some people don't even know that they exist.
How could you not know that?
You're trying to tell me that my bank, Countrywide, matter of fact, Navy Federal, a few years ago, was prosecuted because of redlining.
I get that. I was part of that, didn't count.
Years ago. So this has been happening, forcing people into bad situations for decades. And you trying to tell me because the opportunity is there? Yes, even when we go to our financial institutions, we get shitted on. Yes, those things are still there.
I'm not arguing that there are some forms of discrimination and racism still in existence, but my pushback to you is I don't believe they are so significant that your best option is to deal drugs and do drive-bys.
Nobody's saying best option, but if you, I'm not saying that we haven't made progress, vast amounts of progress.
Then why the hell are there so many African Americans in our neighborhoods that are actually performing worse than they did during the era of Martin Luther King when he was fighting to initiate the progress?
Because the root causes have not been figured out. You can't just say the opportunities are there. The way you raise generations out of poverty is you have to provide them with opportunity. I could be the smartest kid in my neighborhood, living in Detroit where I came from, where the opportunities aren't there. All of the opportunities to get into the middle class have been taken away. All of the damn factories are gone. All of the peripheral stuff that used to go along with the factories are gone. There's a reason why so many people have left Detroit is because of the generational situation that they have been put in. Everybody used to be able to go get a job when they came out of high school in Detroit. You can't do that anymore.
Then I have to ask you, there's a hell of a lot of poor, I mean, for lack of a better term, white trash Caucasians in places like West Virginia, rural Alabama, rural Louisiana, rural Mississippi. Why the hell aren't they doing drive-bys on each other? Why are their neighborhoods, even though they're just as equally poor, if not worse, because Chicago, the African Americans in Chicago are technically not poor when you look at how much they're bringing in compared to some of the areres I mentioned. Yet the violence is just not there. What's causing that?
Because they never start. They didn't start out with an oppressive government. Their situations are different. When those poor people down south, all of these people where I'm at, all of these people deep south who live in the poorest communities, they all depend on government help. They all depend on
my mom grew up depending on government help as well, but my neighborhood was more violent than some of those neighborhoods. Why is that?
Dude, you're talking about a cultural thing to try to identify why some people.
So what is it? What is African Americans in go?
We can have well, we can look at all of these mass shootings back in these high schools. Why are the kids predominantly of one culture? Why? A lot of them, none of them were poor. None of those people who nutted up and wanted to just off everybody in the school, none of them were poor. None of them were raised in these messed up houses. Well, some of them were in messed up households. But why, you asking me about a cultural phenomenon that there's no excuse for. I can give you an understanding of why maybe some of the people in the black community don't just come out and say, wow, there's a whole bunch of opportunities. Why don't just go get them? When they've lived in poverty for decades and decades.
Here's why I got to push back. I don't care what black family we're talking about. Every black family in 2025 has some successful members in that family that grew up in poverty, went to school, went to college, and now they got a successful career somewhere. How could you be black in 2025 and feel like there's no opportunities? You have people in your family, and I don't even know who the hell I'm talking to. You have people in your family that went to the military, went to college, they went to trade school, and they're doing fine. How could you be claiming that there's no opportunities in 2025?
That is me. I am that person, that uncle, that cousin that went to the military, got a degree, am very successful in life, but I still have nephews and cousins and stuff that were born in this situation, and just by looking at me doesn't make them, like, some of them, they can't join the military now because they got a criminal record, because they was hanging out on a corner somewhere, they got chased by police, maybe police planted something, like the situation.
So
like, you can't.
So it sounds like you're saying it's not that the opportunity didn't exist, it's just that they deliberately took the wrong path and closed the door on opportunity for themselves.
We could have an hour-long conversation about how a lot of people were wrongly placed into the justice system, which prevented them from having opportunities where other people don't. We can have conversations about maybe somebody got caught for drunk driving in a black neighborhood. They went to jail. They couldn't post bond. Now they got a record. They on probation. The whole nine.
Most of the folks that are doing the worst stuff in our communities are doing it before they're even old enough to have a driver's license. I mean, a lot of these folks that are committing these robberies are like 15 years old.
You're feeding into the stereotype to insinuate that people in other societies are not engaging in the same things.
You're trying to tell me that there are.
All of the black people that are in prison right now for non-violent drug offenses, who have had their lives destroyed, compared to they've already done studies that white people use drugs just as much as black people do. So guess what? They got dealers, they got distributors, they got all of the same shit. But if no police is in their neighborhood looking for dope dealers, guess what they gonna find? No dope dealers. Because the police, now
I agree that the traps are out there, but what I'm trying to get across to you is in 2025. Wait a minute though. We can talk about the cruel and racist nature of the traps being in existence. I'm not denying that. But the fact is, if you grew up in 2025 as an African American, people have told you about these traps since you were a toddler. How do you grow up to be an adult and get caught in one of them?
If you are growing up as a toddler in a situation where your parents don't help you with homework, you don't have no tutoring, you don't have nobody, the counselors are not assisting you. There's so many things in the system that can make kids fall through the cracks. Just saying what they see successful people, so they should be good. That's not how it works, man.
Yeah, but if you growing up in a family that's not doing this stuff for you, that ain't racism. That's your family members at that point, right?
Well, you have to trace it back to what put them in
You're not trying to. I mean, I hate to be on the wrong side of this conversation, but it sounds like you kind of making excuses for bad behavior.
I'm saying behavior is behavior, but if it's only being identified on one side of the fence, then I'm not going to complain about it as if the other side of the fence is somehow immune to it and that's how they successful. No, they successful because they've had generational wealth handed down, or they've had opportunities that we have not had.
Yeah, but there's a lot of white families out there that has.
We're the first generation of wealth in many black families around. All of these sports people you see and all of these actors and all Barack Obama, this is first generation.
I don't deny that, Dencal, but the fact is there's a whole lot of whites out there that are working trade jobs, low paying jobs, and they have had no generational wealth passed down, and they're not out doing drive-bys and robberies.
Well, I don't know if you want to equate having a job to like somebody having a job opportunity if you want to. If you want to connect that to drive-bys, then if
I mean, just the way. It ain't just that. I mean, it's the whether it is the fighting. Well, I mean, just in our community, there are a lot of things that take place out in the open. I'm not, because you're right. Whites consume drugs just as much as black people do. But you don't go to white neighborhoods and see people open air drug dealing, trying to walk up to your car and solicit a sale. They don't do that. And that,
how do you know that?
Because I've lived in white neighborhoods. Because I've been all over the damn country, and I know where it happens. I've been an over the road driver. I know where it happens.
You've lived in trailer park in white neighborhoods as trailer park trash, and you didn't
I've
know
spent
that they were selling drugs just as much as anybody else.
I've spent time in trailer parks with white people, and nobody walked into my car trying to sell me some shit. Unless I'm going to sound like shit for saying this, but the only time that would happen is if one of those white girls have a black boyfriend and he trying to move some product in their neighborhood. I've never seen it in white neighborhoods. I'm just telling you, but go ahead.
So all of the meth, all of the stuff that was being created in those trailer parks, them people was doing it the right way. Is that what you kind of say?
No. It's plenty. Like I said, there's plenty of shit. Ain't no right. There is no right way to use illegal narcotics, even in the white neighborhoods. I'm just simply saying you don't often walk out of a Dollar Tree in the middle of rural Louisiana somewhere and somebody walk up to you and tell you, I got some meth for sale. It don't normally work like that. That's something we do in our communities.
I mean, how we I don't. Are you saying that we should?
I'm talking about open air drug dealing versus in the white neighborhoods. It tend to be you come in my house, we'll watch a quarter or two of football or whatever. The product is on the table. Listen, I've been around it enough to know how it's done. In the white neighborhood, just like in our neighborhoods, we party in the front on the front lawn. They party in the back. So you can drive down a white neighborhood and there's a party going on and you don't see it. You drive down a black neighborhood, everybody out in the street. I mean, we do things differently. I mean, you know I'm right, though. I'm right.
We do things differerly, and there's a reason why we do them differently. Because of the way we have been treated over time. You keep erasing that part and saying, well, How come we the only ones who do this? Or how come we the only ones that do that? How come the vast majority of SA in this country is perpetrated by one specific race? Let's talk about why do they do that?
Power.
Why do they do that to their children? Why is there so much incest? Why is there so much this and that in those? Of course, there's going to be reasons, but you have to get back to root causes why they are. But
I don't see, and I gotta, of course, I gotta move it on, but I don't see a root cause for how we're living in our communities in this day and age. I mean, like I said, if you want to become, if you're trying to become Barack Obama, that can be challenging. But if you just want the American dream, a decent apartment, a decent house, a decent car, that's obtainable, even for somebody who's black.
Yes, it's obtainable. That's why me and you have it. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that, like, look.
You're making it sound like the white man in 2020.
If we all start taking the point of view you are, which is mostly MAGA is agreeing with you, that black people are inherently violent and use dope and stand on the corner, and we keep perpetrating that in these spaces, man. These MAGA people on here is loving you right now because you are justifying everything.
I'm not justifying. I'm just here asking questions. I gotta move it on, though. I'm sure I'm gonna get my ass kicked after this conversation. But Dick Cow, it wasn't easy. I'm sure I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But thank you for coming through.
All right, man.
All right. I see somebody in the comments already saying Denkow won that one. I'm gonna probably lose all my debates with my liberal audience from that standpoint. But I'm just listening. It's all about free speech. Like I said, you can be critical of the host on this program. That's how it works. The 80s was bad, but it started in the 60s, I think. Now, in the 1960s, there was plenty of oppressive laws, the whole country was oppressive towards minorities. 1960s versus, 2025. What is that? 60 some odd years later. It's a big difference now. It's a big difference now. So I'm just asking that question. But the entire topic we're talking about, and I still think highly of you. We all differences be something. Thank you. I appreciate that. I understand sometimes I have to take the devil's advocate side because I have an opinion from I don't see everything right from the left or everything wrong from the right. So this is kind of where my stance is on it. And like I said, you can be critical of it, but I'm going to ask you to tap the screen. Need to get it up to about 20,000 on the likes, and I want to make sure I got everything here. I don't know what the hell did I just hit here. But yeah, I know I'm going to get chewed to pieces on some of this shit. But look, at the end of the day, this is what we do. All right, looking in the comments, you can't talk sense to someone who chooses not to have any, says Robert Senior. Dude has triple standards, says Dorjan Bennett. He's referring to my last caller, said he has triple standards. He also continues by saying, maybe white people only break one law at a time, and black people break as many as they can at a time. Well, now this is when I step over to the other side. Additional policing in black communities is going to lead to additional arrests. There's no denying that. There's more police in black communities. The pushback is where there's more crime. Well, but if there's more police in an area, that means if you're in a white neighborhood, you could probably be doing some of the same things and get away with it because there's just less police. Like, for instance, racial profiling is going to net a lot of crimes that person otherwise would have gotten away with. Police pull you over, is there any weed in the car, any coke or whatever? And it's just a racial profiling stop. And then all of a sudden it turns into a huge drug bust or something like that. If you're not racial profiling whites, there's going to be some of them moving product that are getting away with it. So there is a little bit of logic coming. There's logic coming from my last caller on that. Looking in the comments though, that happened because of the privatization of prisons. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there. I don't disagree with that. Let me go back to the box. Privatization of penal institutions. Once you make incarceration a for-profit entity, it literally incentivizes them to incarcerate people. If I got a prison that can hold 10,000 inmates, and I know I'm profiting off the inmates, whether it's selling them ramen noodle soup at 4 times the markup, charging their family 4 times the markup for a collect call to talk to their, yeah, I want as many people in my prison as possible. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use some of my money to lobby the politicians. I need you to make that a felony. I need you to come up with a mandatory minimum sentence for that crime. I need shit that's going to get people locked up and keep them locked up. And when they get out, I need the rules to be as strict as possible so that they're likely to return. All of that does happen in America, and that does affect African Americans more probably than any other group. However, you have to first intentionally commit a crime to get caught up in that shit. That's what I mentioned to my last caller, is that the traps are there, but you know they're there. Let me go back to the box. We'll continue on with MAGA Reacts. Good evening, MAGA. Yeah, I'm here defending Carmelo. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, we're talking about rooting for the bad guy. That does seem to be what's going on. MAGA Reacts, good evening.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, you know what I say, hanging around like Jesse Jackson at a Klan meeting. Why are we rooting for the bad guy in this country? Why does it appear as if we're rooting for the bad guy?
I don't know what you're talking about. I just jumped in on that thing called conversation.
Okay, I'll give you, we can certainly discuss it, but I'll give you what I mean by rooting for the bad guy. Right now, you got an African-American father whose son was out committing a violent felony, and the cops took the life of the son. The father got pissed off, found a random cop, used his car to strike the cop, taking the cop's life. A lot of folks are rooting for the father for getting that revenge. We know Carmelo Anthony taking the life of Austin Metcalf. People are rooting for Carmelo Anthony. Some are, on the other side, but people are rooting for Carmelo Anthony. We saw what happened with Luigi Maggione, taking the life of a United Healthcare CEO on video. Yet there's a ton of people rooting for Luigi Maggione. And we can continue on with George Zimmerman, Kyle Rittenhouse. Does it not appear as if we're rooting for bad guys?
I mean, not always, but I think the only good example out of all those is Luigi. Other than that, all those other guys, I don't see it.
Running over a police officer intentionally?
I mean, if it was the police officer that killed my son,
It wasn't the police officer. It was not the police officer. It was a random guy. He had a beef with the police department for taking his life of his son, but he went and found a random officer and did that too.
Yeah, so I can't root for him. Like, maybe if he went after the guy that got his son, and this guy did something. Yeah, if he.
But
if
people
he
are, but that's a, but MAGA.
Son, I would root for him.
But MAGA, that's the issue. People are rooting for him.
Then I just don't understand it, so I can't really comment on it. I don't know what you want me to say.
Okay, rooting for Ashley. I give you one you do know. Rooting for Ashley Babbitt.
I mean, with her, she didn't hurt anybody. She was the victim. She's the one that got hurt. Who did she hurt? The door? The window?
I mean, was she not actively committing a crime in the process of committing a crime? Why are you rooting for a criminal?
I mean, again, where you're comparing murder to breaking and entering and breaking a window and really protesting or rioting. Call her a rioter.
Okay.
She is a criminal, but in today's age, there's a lot of anti-heroes on TV and in movies. And, we've learned throughout time that not everybody's bad. Like, there's no such thing as 100% bad. There's a good side to everybody.
Do you see what
terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
do you see what Ashley Babbitt was doing as an act of patriotism, as Trump says?
Yeah, because she was protesting a stolen election. And if she truly believed that election was stolen, then yes.
So if you
If
believe,
she didn't believe it and she was trying to steal it for her side, then I would agree with you. But she truly believed the election was stolen, and she was there to at least get answers to,
so you wait, hold on. So you believe, okay, some of what you said is true, but it's baffling at how you came to it. Okay, so I believe the election is stolen. So I go to the Capitol building with a bunch of other folks, and we just smash out windows and everything in effort to, as you say, get answers. So we're gonna break into the building, and when we finally get there, you think they're gonna have a conversation with us and give us answers?
Well, our hope was to get answers before it got to that point.
Okay, that's fine. But once you're at the point of smashing your way in, do you really expect once you get in there like that, they're gonna sit down and have a nice conversation with you and give you answers?
No, but at least, look, it was a bad idea, but it worked.
Get answers.
That year, it worked a lot for the other side. It worked a lot for BLM. They were getting a lot of consideration when it came to police brutality. So,
Yeah, the same folks you were.
the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
You're criticizing Trump calls BLM a terrorist outfit, but because terrorism is working for Al Qaeda, then I'm going to go do it too. Is that what you're saying?
Again, it depends on your side. Like I said earlier, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
So you see what Ashley Babbitt was doing is fighting for freedom.
Yeah, because she truly believed the election was stolen. She was just looking for answers and making sure that the people got heard because, otherwise they would have just skipped over it and nothing would have been answered. I mean, in the end, it came out to be a bad idea because they used her protest against her. They used her protest to silence.
It's a bad. In the end, it became a bad idea. It's a bad idea to begin with. I want to get answers from my local politician, so I'm going to break into his office and force him to talk to me. You really expect this guy to sit down and talk to you when you come in like that? Anybody expecting that they were going to get answers, as you put it, by entering by force in that manner, you're just going to send all of the people you're trying to get answers from running for their lives. Nobody's going to talk to you. What kind of sense does that make?
You're making it sound like it was my idea to do it. People have been protesting since the beginning of our government.
I think what I think
people go into the Capitol and protest.
What I
It's
think,
not like MAGA invented this.
yeah, I think you're getting it wrong. Is what I'm getting at. They were not going into the Capitol building to quote unquote get answers. They were going into the Capitol building to stop the process of a peaceful transfer of power. You're not going to get answers doing that. I think it's pretty obvious that nobody's going to sit down and have a good
I don't
conversation.
think anyone believed that they could stop the procedure.
Yeah,
They just wanted to show.
they
that-
did. They actually did stop the procedure until later that night. They successfully stopped. Yeah, they didn't. They all went scattering. They had to come back. Nancy Pelosi, they had to come back later that night.
You make it sound like everyone had this planned. This was a spur of the moment thing that maybe a few people had it in mind, but most people were just following the leader, or some of them were just pushed in there with the crowd.
So what you're saying is, MAGA is a bunch of sheep. They just followed the leader into a felony.
I mean, most people were there to just protest the election, and they saw an open door and they went through it. And
You really
a lot of
believe?
people just walked in there. I know a few of them were agitators, but most of them just were following the crowd and making sure they got heard.
You really believe when you're walking with an audience, people in the audience is yelling that they want to take the life of the vice president and they want to overthrow. You're walking with that. Well, I'm just following the leader. We're just going to go get answers. You hear what people in the crowd are saying. You know, once they get in there, the Secret Service might start.
It doesn't work like that. Just because one area of the crowd screams that doesn't mean everyone in the crowd hears everything.
Okay.
Like for a lot of people, like the people at the beginning, they bum rushed the barricades, right? But by the time most of the people got to the barricades, they were all scattered. It even looked like there was barricades there.
I think you're making up excuses. I think any video you see of what happened on January 6th, if you're an adult, you know that is not the proper way to enter the White. Even the guy with the Viking hat on, QAnon Shimano, there's a peaceful part where he's being let in peacefully. But you know you don't go on a tour of any federal building when there's like 6 or 7 armed officers that are stationed around you. That is not how you normally go on tour.
There were people that got charges for walking past where the barricades were. You know how they had barricades in the middle of like the opening in front of the Capitol? There's a guy I linked you the link a couple of weeks ago. The guy just walked past where the barricades were. But by the time he walked through them, there was like almost no barricades. It didn't look like a barricade at all.
You're walking like 2 miles to get to the Capitol building. There's no way you walk 2 miles to get to that building from where Trump was speaking, and you didn't hear people talking about doing violent shit, or you didn't see ahead of you people breaking into the building and climbing on the roof. I mean, it was pretty obvious it was an overthrow.
Legit permits to have.
You don't have legit permits, or you don't have a legit permit to climb on a fucking roof. If you're walking to the Capitol building from where Trump spoke, you can see ahead of you.
You're convoluting the first row with people who came in like the 20th or the 30th row, then the back. Not even the back. Like just
I'm telling you, you can literally on a clear day see for at least a mile. You can see that building and tell people are on roofs and stuff in this building where they don't belong. You can see that long before you get to it, that people are climbing up, they're taking down flags. You can hear the screaming in the crowd. You can tell that this shit ain't going normal. You're trying to make me think that somehow folks thought it was a normal protest that they were walking to?
They have the video. It's not like that doesn't make you believe anything. They have the video. These people are walking through the walkway, the opening in front of the Capitol. They're walking through it. There's some scattered barricades, but they don't look like they were meant to stop anyone. And just by walking past them, they got misdemeanors and almost got a felony.
Yeah.
And this guy didn't even walk through the main door. He stayed outside, but because he crossed the barricade, they went after him.
There is no way. There is no way. What you're saying makes no sense. If you're in the back of the crowd to the point when you get up there and there's scattered barricades, by that point you can see things are in disarray. Stuff is broken. People are climbing up walls because you're in the back of it, as you say. So a lot of the folks who are really violent done already went in. You can clearly see toward the back of that crowd, people are all over the place that they don't belong. It's pretty obvious you're looking at something happening that is not normal, and you're trying to make it sound like it is.
I mean, it's a protest. I mean, look, the video is there. I'll link it to you again. The guy's walking. He never walked inside the Capitol. He's just walking out in front of the Capitol, and they went after him like he freaking killed somebody. You know, it cost him 300 grand to fight this shit.
Okay, I gotta move on, but real quick, what did you hear from the last call you wanted to speak on?
Yeah, a lot of his excuses are bullshit. Like right now, the redlining. Most of the redlined areas have been gentrified by white people. So if those areas were bad, why are they all gentrified now? By white people moving into them and, you know, fixing them up and improving them. And then, you know, right now we have a shortage in a lot of trade skills. Like you could become a welder, you could become an electrician. There's a lot of jobs out there. Even with a felony, you could go get trained as an electrician, as a handyman, and people are begging for a good handyman. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there. And then my cousin works at a black school, basically. The school is like 90% black. And I volunteer there with him all the time because, you know, I'm very good with technology and they have 3D printers and I'm like the only one that knows how to 3D print in the whole school. So I volunteer.
Yeah, because your ass is making guns probably, but keep going.
No, I'm making, right now I made them solar houses, like model houses, but they're solar powered.
Okay.
And the stuff they have in the classroom, oh my God, I never, like, in my wildest dreams when I was in school, I didn't think I would have any of that. They had 30 tablets, 20 computers, touchscreen TV / like they're, instead of a blackboard, they have a touchscreen TV that's their blackboard.
Wow.
Plus a projector, plus this like badass like webcam so they can have like virtual classrooms. And this isn't a fucking black school in the ghetto. Like I can't even describe it any better than that. And they had so much they have so much opportunity. Like the stuff that's in that classroom was crazy. They had solar panels and all those 3D printers. Everything, so much shit that we never even dreamt of, you know? I had the same class.
I don't, you know, you and I don't normally agree on much, but I think we do agree on this case that I believe there's enough opportunity to at least establish a decent job and career in America. The price of shit is going up, so you might not be able to get your own home anymore, but that ain't got anything to do with racism because there's a hell of a lot of white people having a hard time getting a house as well. I gotta move on though, Mag.
I mean, even fixing sprinklers, you can make a good money doing sprinklers. There's so much opportunity, you know?
I don't disagree. In fact, I will tell you something. If you live in a liberal city where most African Americans live at, it's probably more opportunities there than in rural southern states where white people live. It's probably, where they may only have a Dollar Tree or a Walmart to work at. You got a hell of a lot more options in Philadelphia than you do in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But I got to move on.
And one last thing, and there's 100 people on YouTube telling you how to get like loans as a felon, as a minority. Yeah. You know, you guys scream about DEI, but there's a lot of DEI opportunity out there to get loans just for being a minority. You know, so take advantage of it.
All right, MAGA reacts. Thank you. That wasn't peaceful this time. Probably, I think I know why. But Successful MD says MAGA is a gang. Deport them. You want to deport all of MAGA? Wow. You cannot get a loan if you have a felony on your record, says Arshafine. Is that true? I think that's the way I've heard it, but does that apply to like every single loan in the book? Like, are you saying that you cannot get any federal loan at all if you have a felony? MAGA React says that's bullshit. I should have asked more in detail of that. Meaning, George M. Bennett says, meaning don't smoke, speed, and have no driver's license with a load in your trunk. Yeah, something of that nature. But yeah, I do believe, because I'm not so far gone that I'm going to pretend like America is perfect. With African Americans only being like 13 and 15% of the population, it's never going to be equal. I mean, my guess is if African Americans were 60% of the population and whites were only 13 and 15%, it probably wouldn't be fair for whites either. But I'm not excusing it. I'm not excusing the history of what happened. I mean, it was atrocious. But I will state that I do believe, even to this day, the criminal justice system does treat people of color worse than it do people who are white. Because the system is ran mostly by people who are white. If the system was mostly ran by people who were black, it probably would be better to be black than being white. So that part I do agree with. But that's what I stated before. Don't fall into the traps. If you live a life of obeying the law, your chances of falling into any trap set up by the system is significantly less. That's not to say you may not encounter a bullshit officer. That's not, I mean, some of them do exist, but if you are not breaking the law, your chances of being a victim of police misconduct drops significantly. It just does. Looking in the comments, Joseph Miller says they locked up black fathers, had children only knowing one way not to be poor, gave incentives to mothers to be without dads. It's so easy to see this. That's true, but that happened back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Joseph Miller. That's not happening now. That's, they used to have it where you couldn't get welfare if the father lived in the home. They did do things to incentivize separating the black families. But that hasn't happened for like the last generation or two. That's not happening now. But Johnny 11 says it's still going on. You telling me they're still separating black families? How so? Give me the incentive, what you're suggesting there, Dent Cal and Johnny. How come we never talk about Antifa or BLM trying to burn down a courthouse for months with zero accountability? I'm not aware of that, Doorjam Bennett. I'm not. And by the way, here's the problem. Anybody can be BLM. Anybody can walk down the street and shout out BLM. Even a white supremacist can do that. So when you put things on BLM, how do you really know? So I haven't heard what you're talking about though, but anybody, BLM is not, you're not a card carrying member of Black Lives Matter. Anybody could do that. If you just want to tarnish BLM, go set a few cars on fire, yell BLM, and get caught, get filmed doing it. Well, BLM is doing that. Could be anybody doing that. Anyway, looking in the comments though, and who made those rules that they couldn't have welfare if the father was in the home? The Democrats. I don't think that, Johnny 5, no, and I'll go back to the box. By the way, tap the screen. Get me on up to about 25,000 in the like category. I do want to take another caller, but tap the screen, get the likes on up. I will say this. When you talk about racism from a standpoint of parties, it kind of falls on deaf ears with me for this simple standpoint. It's not, if we're going to suggest that the Democrats are the ones that treated people of color bad and the Republicans loved them, then that means the Republican states they should have been getting treated great. And there's no history of that. There's no evidence of that. During the time when America was in its darkest days, mistreating minorities and women and all of that, you weren't safe no matter what the party affiliation was of your state. Other than during the abolitionist era, where one area of the country was letting blacks be free and the other one was keeping them in slavery. Outside of that, it didn't matter where the hell you were. Jim Crow and slavery, all that shit was happening everywhere. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that Chicago and Detroit and all of the northern cities had racism and shit in them too. So bringing up, well, who did it? Was it the Democrats? The Republicans don't have a history of being very kind to black folks other than under Abraham Lincoln. Outside of that, the Republican Party ain't known to be all that great either. So I'm just going to simply say nice try. But notice you're not naming a host of historically Republican states or how black people were prospering and doing very well there. They were treating them like shit too. Looking in the comments though, kudos to Dencal, someone says, Johnny 11. Let me go back to the box. Am I at 20,000? Can you get your boy up to 20,000 likes? Going to the box, Gangsta Grandma. No, I'm doing a good job today, Gangsta. I'm doing a good job, right?
No, you really not. You being mofo, you. What the fuck? You see how you be doing it, man.
What am I doing wrong?
One, the BLM, we wasn't burning shit down. Pookies or Ray Rays. From the maggot side, we wasn't burning shit down. It was the right people. The white tea people. Yes, it was.
No.
But I tell you what.
Wait a minute. Wait. I'll let you get your point out, but you're trying to tell me BLM didn't burn anything down at all? I mean, I was in Ferguson.
I didn't say not never. I said most majority of them, it was the white, it was the right side. It was the maggots that was doing, they came in and did this shit to make us look bad.
What evidence do you have of that?
The feds, the feds, the popos. Yeah, they arrested they sorry asses.
No.
They was tweeting like a little bird. Yes,
A lot of the rioting from BLM happened in a lot of black areas and shit like that. You're telling me MAGA came into black areas and did that?
They sure did.
No.
The white team. Go look at the shit, man. You need to go educate yourself before you start talking on this shit, because you really don't know shit about it. Yes.
Well,
It was. I know. I don't have to lie to kick it. Nope.
I mean, listen, if I'm wrong, damn it. I'll admit it every day. I'll admit it every day.
Come up in here, I have to roast your ass and slap you in the head sometimes because you over there beepy and fluffy with the wrong side of history. They're gonna hang your black ass. That's what they want to do. You really think they like you? Do you really think they like you?
No, it ain't. Man, wait, hold on. Shit, you don't sound like you like me either, goddammit. I'm
tolerating your black ass because you're one of my folks. But I'm gonna scorch your ass. I couldn't be around you.
What? No, but okay, let's go back to my first conversation with, I believe it was Denkow. Are you suggesting that in 2025, blacks have to open air drug deal? They don't have no opportunities that this stuff that's going on in...
It's harder for us. It is harder. We're not saying that there isn't no opportunities, but it's harder. They make it harder to get loans. They make it harder. They don't want the one president that didn't make it as hard to get a good a business loan was Biden. Trump didn't make it easy for us.
Okay, well, you're gonna slap me for saying this because I want to.
I won't beat your ass. I would count your shit. I would just like, be nice. Yeah, you better not.
Be nice. Let me just say this. Let me just say this. When I got my first associate's degree back in '92 in Chicago, I was able to apply for loans that were available to me, as MAGA React stated, because I was a minority. So you're telling me that there are no opportunities. There were.
I didn't say there was. Comprehend what the fuck I'm saying.
I'm listening.
I gotta take hits to be with you. You feel what I'm saying? I gotta take hits. Let me tell you something, okay? I said it's harder.
How?
To get help.
How?
See, you're such a raccoon that you
Wait, hold on. Let me tell you this. Because under the Obama administration, they went after a hell of a lot of these colleges that were, admitting folks that they knew were not going to graduate just to get them to apply for loans. And Obama closed down a lot of for-profit colleges. But that was a perfect example to show that if you're African American and you want to get a loan to get an education, there was plenty of it, to the point where these colleges exploited it. So what are you saying where there's no opportunity? I don't get it.
I didn't say there was none. Can't you comprehend this?
I'm trying.
They make it harder. They make it harder for us. It's not like a cup of tea and shit like that. Oh, you can walk in and get some. No, they make it harder for us. That's what I'm saying to you. It is harder.
I don't disagree with that.
Harder. And let me tell you something about this black on black shit and this white on white shit. You said you've been in a white neighborhood and oh my God, you don't see the shit, honey. Shit. Honey, I have friends in white neighborhoods. They be doing crystal and every damn thing else. They have houses blowing the fuck up and every damn thing else. The only reason why they don't get busted because they're not over policed. They don't have SWAT cars in every damn project and shit. But they don't have them in the trailer parks and shit. They're not over policed like our neighborhoods are.
Well, in regards to one of the things you said, it looks like Me Too is agreeing. It says a Boogaloo boy drove from Texas just to burn down the Minneapolis precinct. So somebody is saying you're correct, and I did hear there was a few you instigating acts. But for the most part, I'm under the assumption that anything that was burned down by BLM was not burned down by somebody that was outside of the cars.
There's a couple of fuck ups that did some fucked up shit. I ain't gonna say that we didn't, but it was majority was the white team man that did the shit. Okay, let's squash this shit. Okay, I'm so sick of them saying that Bobbitt woman. Oh, she was a patriot. No, bitch, she was a criminal, and she got what she deserved. Thank you.
Okay, which one are you talking about?
Then you'll get your pew shut up. Okay.
Okay, who are you talking about?
That one woman, that white T woman and went so-called protest at the whatever the house, the Senate House, whatever the fuck she was.
You talking about Ashley Babbitt?
Yeah, Babbitt.
And so unlike Marguerite Ash, you don't see Ashley Babbitt as someone who was wrongfully terminated, so to speak.
No. She got what she deserved. Pew pew. Oh well. You want a cookie?
Well, you can't eat a cookie when you're dead. What about the folks who?
Well, that's maggot we gotta worry about.
What about the folks who would suggest that, listen, she was unarmed, she believed the election was stolen, and she was.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. You don't mess with the police. If the police tell you to stop and don't do it, you better stop and don't do it. We have to.
Yeah.
You think? Come on now. We can just look at a popo and get shot.
Now we're starting to agree on some of that. I do agree that one of the most often pushbacks against African Americans is you wouldn't be in this predicament if you had just simply complied and followed the law. And clearly, Ashley Babbitt was not doing that.
Let me tell you something. If it was BLM up in that bitch, we would all been unalived. You feel what I'm saying? We all would have been unalived. Because it would have been the pew-pews out and everything. She better be lucky that nobody else got unalived. Only the police officers, I feel bad for because they was trying to do their damn job. Unruly fucking white teeth people up in there and all the other fucking maggots that thinking they're going to do something big and bad. And they made all of us look stupid. Let me tell you something. BLM went out there because of justice, because of police brutality. We went out there because our people are being unalived faster than a white T-man. That's why we're out there. We're doing something for the good, not going out there because you guys believe that the election was rigged because the white T-man was crying like a whole bitch.
Well, I gotta push back from this standpoint. I have to push back. There's a hell of a lot of cases. I believe the one in Ferguson was a good example of. There was a bunch of rioting in Ferguson where the Obama administration with Eric Holder determined that it was a justifiable shooting, but BLM folks, as you say, they believed something was happening wrong, and they went. Same thing with Ashley Babbitt. What Ashley Babbitt was acting on was not true, but she believed it. So what I'm simply saying is,
Let me tell you something, okay? I don't give a damn what justice system was under. They always think that people that got unalived by the police, they always get something wrong. We were still out there protesting because he didn't do nothing wrong. But the police gonna walk on this shit no matter what because it's the popo. So what the fuck is wrong with you? They always the popo. The popo will always walk on this shit.
Derek Chauvin didn't walk. He's the guy who took out George Floyd. He's in prison.
One thing, because you know what? I am proud that they took that motherfucker and they put him in underneath the damn jail. And I hope he gets everything he deserves.
To be fair, the police often do get away with shit that looks questionable, but there are a lot of police that have went to jail for misconduct. Plenty of cops.
Not a lot. No, not a lot. Not a lot. Nope. No, they rocking the blue. No.
What about the notion that maybe you don't hear about all of them?
If I don't, I don't. I don't give a fuck. They still the popo. I don't trust their asses. I'll never date a police. I don't get by the police. I stay the fuck away from the popo. Okay.
All right.
I don't fuck with the police. And I don't think that. And let me tell you something about me. You might think I always defend. I am pro-black and I defend. I don't defend everything. Wrong is wrong is wrong. You feel what I'm saying?
And the same. You and I are not disagreeing on all of this. We're agreeing on a lot of this.
I don't defend that white tea bitch that called the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic kid. I do not defend that. Fuck them. Fuck everything about that racist piece of shit. Do I defend the black man that killed, that unalived,
Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony?
No,
Oh, you talking about the father that ran over a cop?
Yeah, I don't defend that. That was fucked up. If you're going to unalive a pawpaw, why didn't you do the person that did it to your son?
Would you have defended if he had did it to the officer that took his son out?
Yeah, I would have.
Now his son was in the process. His son was in the process of committing a felony while armed when he lost his life. Yeah.
I didn't know all that.
Yeah, his son was.
It's true that he was doing a felony and he had a popo and he did that. But all I heard that they don't know if he had a gun, a pew pew or not. Now, if it comes out that he did all that shit, then you know what? There's no justification. I mean, you know, if you point a GUN in front of a popo, you know what you're gonna do.
But see, that's the point I'm trying to.
I don't defend him. I don't defend his father going out and unaliving
A random cop.
A random one.
Yeah.
You don't do all that shit. That's bullshit. It makes us all look bad.
Yeah, and I don't think you and I are disagreeing on a lot of this stuff. But that's what I'm saying is that even though I agree with you that the criminal justice system can be more harder or harsher on people of color. Hold on. I'm not disagreeing with you. I believe the criminal justice system can be harsher on people of color, but the point I was trying to make is if you obey the law and are a law-abiding citizen, you're not likely to fall in that. There's a few times a totally innocent person will meet a bad cop, but for the most part, most people who meet a bad cop were doing something bad when they encountered them.
Not all of them. No.
Most of them.
Not all. Because there's a lot of unalived from police, even my brother, that did not have a pew-pew or anything like that, and they unalived the asses. Or they was innocent, or, you know, they was reaching for something, there wasn't a GUN, and they unalived, and they got spooked. There's a lot of shit that goes down these police don't want to end up. You know what I mean? But I'm not justifying. If the kid had a pew-pew, he aimed at a cop, that was a death wish. You don't do all that. Because for one, you're black. And they don't like your ass in the fucking first place. And then you had a pew-pew. Well, you just did your sentence. And he was probably a stupid-ass kid. But I don't know all that situation, and I don't want to judge it until the day in court. You know what I mean? I don't want to say nothing like that. But what the dad did was fucked up.
Yeah, and the dad is likely to pay a huge penalty for that. I don't know if
he's gonna go down just like his kid. But you know what that's fucked up is? I know where his rage went. His rage. He had a badass rage. I had rage. You know what I mean? I had rage.
I would have thought you were one of the most peaceful persons ever.
No, I'm not. I wanted to unalive the cop. I really did. I wanted to unalive the cop that killed my brother. I really did. I wanted to go hunt his ass down and do it. I really did. But I had to take a breath, and I had the justice system do its course. And guess what? It didn't really work. You know what I mean? My mom got money for the shit, but it didn't really work. He walked on the shit. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not what you think it is. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Gangsta. I do got to move it on. Somebody's trying to get to you.
Can I tell you something? Quit fluffing. I swear to God, quit fluffing for the white man.
I gotta go. I gotta.
That's why they think I will one gun and shit because you fluffing.
There's no fluff in here. I gotta go. Answer your phone. Moving on to the program. Gangsta Peaceful. She is. Gangsta Peaceful. If she could. The wording of that Sutton, whatever that said, I cannot read what you're trying to say there. This lady need a TV show. I like Gangsta Grandma. She doesn't take it easy on me, but you know, listen. At the end of the day, we run a show that can have passionate viewers, and if you got a passionate opinion, that doesn't exclude you from coming up on the show whatsoever, even if it's to tell me you totally disagree with what I am often stating, which she absolutely did. Looking in the comments for how long you killing young black kids. Maxwell, what are you talking about? I don't get that one. Goodness, God rest her soul. Damn. All right, let me go back to the box. Louisiana has the worst rep for racism, but we all help each other here. Says, weren't you guys, wasn't it down there you guys were going to vote in? What is the guy's name? Used to be part of the Triple K. Back in 2015, it said, if you don't vote for Trump, it's considered treason against the white race. David Duke, didn't he run for public office in Louisiana and got like 30% of the vote or more down there? So I do believe you are right about Louisiana. Your history down there is pretty dismal. They didn't need to walk 2 miles. This is 21st century. You have a computer in your pocket. Actually, the distance from where Trump gave a speech on January 6th to the Capitol building, it is about 1.5 miles to 2 miles. That's what I was told. You telling me, what do you say? It's a couple blocks? What are you telling me that's different? Anyway, moving on with the program. Tap the screen Give me on up to 30 thou. Make the lights come in. We're talking about the potential of rooting for the bad guy. Whether we're talking about, what is his name? Carmelo Anthony taking the life of Austin Metcalf, Luigi Maggione. As my last caller pointed out, you got this white woman now that she got caught calling a 5-year-old the N-word, I believe. I believe the kid was like 5 years old. She's on video calling the kid the N-word, and people have donated over $500,000 to the white woman. To the white woman. Her only claim to fame is she called a black kid an N-word, and people have donated a heap of money to her. We're talking about rooting for the bad guy. Even this cop that you heard me my last caller discussing, that got angry that the cops took the life of his son who was out committing a felony, and the father decided to pick a cop at random, use his car and run over the police officer, taking his life. A lot of folks are rooting for the dad. And then going back a little bit further, we talked about Ashley Babbitt, the likes of Kyle Rittenhouse, George Zimmerman, Danielle Perry. Folks seem to be rooting for the bad guy. Why is that? I want to talk about that. And I mentioned this in the beginning of the live before we go to the next caller, but Trump is still going after the Ivy League colleges, Harvard in particular, cutting federal funding, stating that they're having all of these violent protests on campus, suggesting that they're not protecting their Jewish students from folks that are protesting in favor of Palestine or even Hamas, and going all up in their face. And Trump is saying the schools are not doing a good enough job protecting folks on the campus. I asked this question, certainly in regards to the conversations we have been having. Is Trump the right messenger for this? Is Trump the right messenger for this? Certainly when you take in consideration that he is likely to go down in history, as I stated before, he's likely to go down in history as the orchestrator of one of the most violent protests in history. Trump is talking about Harvard does not protect its Jewish students. Meanwhile, he threw a protest and he did nothing to protect the likes of Mike Pence and the entire House and Senate that were there that day. He did nothing to protect them. Is he the right messenger to bring up the protest at Harvard? That's what we're talking about. Tap the screen, get the lights on up to 30,000. We'll take the next caller. Okay, donate to Tim because someone called him Fluffy, whatever that is. When one of my guests called me a fluffer, I guess I hate to go over this shit, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again because somebody brought it up. You're going to occasionally hear folks suggesting that I'm a fluffer or that I am fluffing. Generally, they're going to suggest I'm fluffing for MAGA, Republicans, or white people in general. Fluffer. I didn't know what this was until I started hosting the show, but apparently a fluffer is the person that works behind the scenes for adult content. Let's say you got basically a porn movie. The male talent sometimes can go soft a little bit. There's a person whose job it is to fluff up the male so that he's more prepared for the scene. I guess kind of like a human case of Viagra or Cialis or something like that. So when you hear folks suggest that I'm a fluffer, that's what they're referring to. Yeah, it's insulting. I don't mind. I let the people speak their mind. This is not a fluffing zone, but I do hear that all the time. Anytime I speak on behalf of a cause or an opinion that is more favorable to Trump, MAGA, or even sometimes white people in general, I get it from the other side. I assume maybe there might be some MAGA. I haven't heard it from MAGA yet, but we'll see. Kyle Rittenhouse was self-defense, but Carmelo isn't. Looking at the comments here, Kyle Rittenhouse case was self-defense. Carmelo Anthony could be, but you're going to have to add a lot of ingredients to make it a self-defense case, like the stand your ground law. In a state, I'm having a Biden moment here. In a state that does not have stand your ground law. By the way, tap the screen, give me up to 30,000 so I can take the next damn caller on my TikTok. In a state that does not have stand your ground laws, chances are what Carmelo Anthony did would not be self-defense. If you have a duty to retreat, it's pretty clear Carmelo Anthony had the ability to retreat because he did it right after he plunged his sharp instrument into the chest of Austin Metcalf. So it wasn't like he was on the ground getting stomped and couldn't get away. It even sounds like he actually invited Austin Metcalf to continue assaulting him in fuck around and find out fashion. So Carmelo Anthony may win a self-defense case, but you're going to have to add some ingredients to it, like stay your ground. Because if stay your ground doesn't exist, he's not going to get away with that, in my opinion. Kyle Rittenhouse, on the other hand, based on what we've seen on video, was a clear-cut case of self-defense. The first person he took out was literally chasing him, trying to disarm him, and making it clear that that was the goal. It was to harm him. You're chasing a guy who has an AR on him? I mean, you already know what happens if you try to disarm a cop or a security guard or anybody else. They're going to shoot you. That's the first guy he took out. Then obviously the second guy he took out, you know, they're using skateboards and shit trying to beat him up. He's on the ground. They're coming at him. One guy is off in the distance holding a pistol in his hand. Kyle Rittenhouse's case was self-defense. Now, his actions that put him in that situation were stupid. But doing something that's negligent or stupid does not give folks the right to take your life. So Kyle Rittenhouse's case, in my opinion, is absolutely self-defense based on what you were able to see on camera. But he was dumb and stupid to put himself there. He just happened to get really lucky because all it took was the guy, what they call bicep man with the firearm, the pistol. If that guy had just popped him and not tried to get close to him, Kyle Rittenhouse might not even be with us. And he got lucky on a few other ways. Give me the 30,000 so I can take the next call. Ricky Schroeder personally gave Kyle Rittenhouse, Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons, I think he also had a stint on NYPD Blue, the actor, $600,000 I think he gave to Kyle Rittenhouse for legal fees or whatever, because the Wisconsin government was trying to railroad Kyle Rittenhouse. They were hiding evidence and everything. They wanted to prosecute his ass. He was able to get good counsel and find evidence and show that it was truly a self-defense case. So when I say lucky, he didn't just get lucky at the scene that they didn't shoot or maim his ass. He got lucky that he had enough money, because if Kyle Rittenhouse was a regular person off of the amount of money that his mom and his family had, he would have went to prison. I mean, he would, just like O.J. Simpson, if he was a bus driver, he went to prison. Being able to hire good lawyers, good legal counsel makes a world of a difference. And Kyle Rittenhouse was able to afford it thanks to the donations coming in. But that prosecutor in Wisconsin had it in for Rittenhouse. He was trying to win that case. And he was trying to win it by any means necessary. Carol, I can't even pronounce your last name, Keem or Killen. Thank you for the support. Real quick before we move back on. Are we at 30,000? We're talking about speaking your mind today, by the way. SGB, just because somebody pushes you doesn't mean you could take their life. That is still cold-blooded murder. Well, that's what I'm talking about. You know, the stay your ground kids. By the way, I don't have the name, but I will bring up another bad guy people were rooting for. Some of you folks may have seen this because it's on video. I don't remember the name or the players in the game, but there was an elderly white male that was at a gas station. This was in Florida. This is down there in Florida, same state with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, but he was at Florida. A black couple pulled into the gas station, and apparently they parked in the handicapped parking space. They were a young couple. I don't think they were even 40. Young couple. And the male driving the vehicle who parked in the parking, well, it might have been, I don't know which one was driving. I think it might have been actually the female. Whatever the case may be, the young black couple pulled into the parking space in front of the gas station. The male got out of the car and went in the gas station to get whatever they were going there to get. The woman stayed behind in the vehicle. The old white male that was hovering around the gas station, loitering around the gas station for some odd reason, began heavily criticizing the woman in the car over how they parked. The black male came out of the gas station, saw his woman being verbally attacked by this old white guy that's standing outside of the car. He walks up to the white guy and he shoves him to the ground. That's all the physical contact. He shoved him to the ground. So you got the white guy sitting there on his bum looking up at the black guy who shoved him to the ground. I don't think they're any more than maybe 10 feet apart at the most. The white guy reached into the waist of his pants, pulled out a pistol, shot the black guy, and killed him. We're talking about rooting for the bad guy. A lot of folks are rooting for the white guy, suggesting that you shouldn't have put your hands on him. That was enough. So for you folks who are talking about Carmelo Anthony did not have a right to take somebody's life simply from being pushed, that guy did that. If it wasn't for the likes of Al Sharpton and BLM going down to that area and threatening the protest, they had already cleared the white guy of that homicide. But once BLM and stuff went down there, they reopened the case. He ended up being convicted of murder. And I believe he's still in prison. But that happened in Florida. He was about to get away with that. Just like in George Zimmerman's case. They wrapped that case up pretty quickly and gave him his gun back and sent him home. It wasn't until, once again, BLM went down there and they at least attempted to give Trayvon Martin's family some justice. But they had already gave George Zimmerman his gun back and considered it self-defense and sent him home. So they moved pretty quick on some of this stuff, if the victim is black, apparently. Anyway, looking at the comments, though, look, we don't take lightly to disrespecting our women. Fuck around and find out. Well, you can't shoot somebody. No, he couldn't shoot him. No, Carmelo Anthony was trespassing. He was not supposed to be at that track meet to begin with. Are we at 30,000? A lot of lazy thumbs here. We got almost 200 people. You guys can't get your boy. A good minute of tapping will be right up there. Tap the damn screen. Get the likes up. Carmelo Anthony was trespassing. He was not supposed to be at that track meet to begin with. He was not supposed to be under that pavilion to begin with. The boys were in a place of authority. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The boys had no authority to put their hands on a citizen. Nobody deputized. You're trying to make it sound like somebody deputized Austin Metcalf. They were not in the position of authority. Even if he had walked in their locker room or something like that, they don't have a position where they can put their hands on somebody and physically move. Hell, I used to be a landlord, had a host of tenants in Chicago. Even if a person was a squalor in my apartment, I couldn't physically move them out. As a citizen, you don't get a lot of situations where you actually have a legal right to put your hands on another person and move them. Outside of maybe somebody being in your car or on your property or in your home, you can't put your hands on somebody and try to forcibly move them from somewhere. So, no, him being at a school event and him walking under an umbrella, no, you can't as a student. You don't get the right to... You're not deputized or you can do that. I don't know what makes you think you believe you can do something like that. One reason would be because Trump is a professional litigator. Really? Okay. He goes in there to make money like the investors in the court cases. People think he's going in and just discovering this. Okay. Carol, wow. All right, let me go back to the box. I don't think I'm going to get my third. Oh, yeah, we just did it. Going back to the box. Gordon 777, good evening, welcome to the program. For some reason, immigrants younger than us know more about our country. It's mind-boggling because other countries, you're talking to somebody who migrated overseas, other countries teach a lot more U.S. and world history than we do. In America, just like what Trump is saying, we don't need anybody. We only need each other. Other countries don't do that. They actually teach world history, world geography, and they actually teach it from a standpoint that we all matter to each other. Only in America do we have this supremacist mindset where everybody depends on us and we don't need anybody else. Gordon 777, good evening.
Yeah, that right there is the truth.
Yeah.
They know about us more than we know about ourselves, and that's the problem that we're having. And right now, we need to know that the world is smaller with technology, and everybody's looking at us. So we keep talking about the left is wrong or the right is wrong and stuff like that, and they looking at America like, nah, y'all wrong.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. When the world looks at us, they don't look at us in terms of, like you said, left or right. If we vote in Trump and Trump does something wrong, then that's America backing that. They don't pick and choose between all of that shit.
They don't. And they don't. And that's what we need to do, because our little racist herpes then pop back up again, and we acting like we don't understand each other.
What did you call it? What was that ailment?
It's almost like our racism is like herpes, and then a right emotion comes and that stuff pops right back up in America. And we got to get this under control for real, because the thing is, and I know that's funny, but
it's rooted in validity. I mean, it is funny, but that is a great way to describe it. And I'm just going to be honest with you. As long as Trump is in office, I mean, he's basically fucking without a condom. You're not going to get rid of this with him in office. I mean, because...
Yeah, but the thing is, I think us as the people, and I have to believe it. I like my friends say, sometimes they say I'm unrealistic optimistic about stuff. I don't think I'm unrealistic optimistic, but I know the truth. Negative energy and positive energy got the same power, but we just love to give energy to the negative. But negative don't need no help right now. But we got to balance it out, because a lot
but
of
negative is getting help right now, though.
Yeah, it's getting help, but I'm just saying, see, just like that. The thing is, the positive help or energy, we can give it to it, but we'll figure out a way to just that little bit right there will give that negative energy more help. It's not so much of the left need to tell the right what to do, or the right need to tell the left what to do. No, the left need to tell the left what is wrong. And a lot of times, I've seen on live, and I've been on a couple of these lives now, it'll be somebody that asks a question, and yeah, they setting them up to say, okay, well, is this true? And then the person can't even answer the question because they're like, well, no, I'm not. We should be debating each other, not to win the debate, because if you win the debate and you are absolutely wrong, you did both of us a disservice.
And that's what, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And that's why I say on my show all the time, it's never about winning and losing. I don't talk down to guests. I try to avoid the gotcha questions, because you're right. Folks are more focused on winning the conversation than actually having a good dialogue. I mean, they just want to win. And I don't do that here. But you're right, because when I go into other forums, and most of the forums I go into are MAGA forums, and it's all gotcha questions. Just want to prove I know more than you and things. No, we should be trying to all educate each other. I know things you probably don't know. You know things I probably don't know. And damn it, if you got something I don't know, I'll admit when I'm wrong and give you credit for giving me the knowledge. But you're right. They're more focused on winning.
That's the truth. And the thing is, I've listened to a lot of MAGA, because I'm not MAGA, and I'm an independent. I'm not left anymore, because I saw that both sides actually got stuff that I agree with. Mm-hmm. But what you said, what did you say they called you, like softy or fluffy or whatever?
That's the left. From the left, I'm usually gonna be called a fluffer. Sometimes it's they're gonna call me a samboard. Sell out.
That's a good thing. I've been called now on you got to pick a side. Why I got to pick a side? Especially if they got something. If you got better fruit for me to pick, I'm gonna pick that one instead of this one at this moment. You know what we should do? I just thought about it. When somebody's going out for a government position or whatever, they shouldn't even have a name or whatever side. Whatever the words that they say should be what we pick from. Don't even look. You don't even know which side, and you'll be surprised how many people gonna pick the other side, because it sounds good. Yeah. And it goes in order of what they believe. For us to believe that anybody who's black didn't go through hell, it's almost like we at least I've seen it on the right when I talk to them. They say a lot of good stuff or whatever. Like one place I was listening to, they was talking about how a lot of white people can't speak the truth about how they're being treated by people of color. And actually, some of them would tell a story, and I'm like, well, damn, I never looked at it that way, but it holds merit. But in the same sense of like whoever was doing the show, then they almost make it sound like the black people weren't going to do anything, and they're not American for, or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to go too deep in it. The point I'm trying to say is we here in America are all Americans,
Yeah.
if you like it or not, and you can't call somebody not patriot just because they don't see America like you and they fight.
Yeah, that happens a
It's
lot.
like you're not gonna look at your uncle the same if one of them got R'd, I guess you can't say that word, but like with or whatever, like the other child. Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I appreciate that. Yes, Uncle, you made sure I can get it through school, and I got a good job because you.
Well, let me ask you. We talked about this. Let me ask you that because we talked about this earlier on the show. I mentioned that in areas of color, black neighborhoods, for instance. Even now you got everything from open air drug dealing. Folks, there's still a hell of a lot of murders. I'm from the south side of Chicago. All that stuff still is happening. Do you blame what's happening in 2025 in black neighborhoods on racism?
A little bit. Not because if somebody robbed you, you can't wait till the robber gets sued or whatever to fix your house. You have to start fixing your house right after it happens. You have to go ahead.
Okay, but tell me,
yourself.
give me an example of how do you give me an example of how you tie a lot of in some of these neighborhoods you got 15, 16-year-olds that are carjacking people and all this stuff. Give me how you tie that into racism, because when I was 15, I wasn't even trying to get a car at all, much less steal it from somebody else. So how do you tie into racism, what they're doing in a lot of our communities?
Just off the top of my head, if you asking that question, I don't know which 3 letters it was, but I'm just going to use FBI. Said one of the most dangerous things that we had in the country was a black family or something. Have you heard that before?
I've heard something like that, but but just because somebody calls you violent, don't mean you have to be violent, do you?
Yeah, but if somebody keeps you away from food, eventually you might take it. So I'm not saying that's right. But I'm saying if you don't have an opportunity to get these things, eventually you will come a savage. I'm not a killer, but you put me in the right position, I might become.
Yeah, that sound like the words of Tupac. I'm not a killer, but don't push it. But the point I'm making is you talked about if you get to the point where you're desperate, you don't have food. Do you see most of these folks? Do you see most of these folks in black neighborhoods that are committing these violent crimes as people who can't get food?
No, I don't. I was just answering that question before, but I will say this. But if, and I hate to say it like this, have you ever heard of that little study that they did? I think it was in the 70s.
The dog test. The dog test. Yes.
The dog test. You already knew what I was talking about. So everybody just looks at people a certain way, and that, especially at a young age, and then coming up, it will affect how you move. It will affect what you gravitate to. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta disagree. I think that even if the world is looking, even if the world is looking down on you and saying awful things about you, that shouldn't incentivize you to do that stuff. I mean, because what you're saying is that because we have mistreated people of color, it's incentivizing these young. I mean, like I said, we're talking juveniles that are going around shooting and killing each other. You don't need any. These folks don't even need money at that age. They're not going out and carjacking somebody and selling the car to go pay mama's rent. That's not even what they're doing with the money.
Oh yes, no, that's beautiful. Yes, you're telling the truth, and I don't like it. I'm a person who work every day. I have a family. These people who you're speaking of, they scare me as well. I'm not gonna lie to you on that. Yes, that's the truth of the matter, and I'm not giving them no excuse. But that is, who in the world is gonna do something to harm themselves on purpose unless they have been in a position where they believe that is right? And I think that right there, I think is systematic, because racism and crime would not keep going, especially in a beautiful country like America, unless somebody's getting money. Somebody's getting money off this stuff, and it's not just the black people who are going through this. I'm telling you, even white people are going through this because they're making money off them too, to make sure that we stay on opposite sides in certain situations so they can make money at the top, and they keep us having these champions that they put in front of us. So, and these champions can even be these people we're talking about that's going through these things. I am going into a little bit of conspiracy and stuff like that. But sometimes these facts.
Wait. Here's the point, though.
But go ahead.
In regards to the potential of it being systemic or something like that, I guess I'm not seeing how the system in 2025 is so racist or
It don't have to. It don't have to. Look, I'm gonna tell you why. It doesn't have to. Now, here go another study that we done had in the past that makes it good. Makes it why racism. So white folks who are listening, that has nothing to do with you at this time, but the hurt will make people lash out to y'all. So it's not y'all, not the ones who not actually doing it. So I'll give you grace on that if you're all right with that. But what it is a lot of times, have you heard that little study where they had the animals and they had them all in a room, and then they had like food on top of a ladder or something? And so what they do is when the animal go up on the ladder to grab the food, they spray them with water or whatever, and that's bad. So when the next animal go up there, or the monkey or whatever it was, will go up to get the food on the ladder, they'll spray them again. So
I haven't
after a while,
seen
they
this.
didn't have to spray the animal to get the food. The other animals will beat that animal up to get it.
You do realize you can
Yes, but after time, the monkeys who were at that project at the beginning, they one by one took them out. So after a while of generations of it, you didn't even have to spray them. They would do the job themselves to make sure.
You do realize you're comparing African Americans to animals and monkeys. I mean,
that's beautiful to call us animals. But
that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying they have the science warfare. You think that was a project that they let us know that was animals? No, it was. They probably did this stuff with people, like whatever the mustache man with the little mustache that we don't like.
Yeah, somebody else. Well, let me ask you this: is it possible? But is it possible? Hold on. Is it possible, as opposed to blaming all of the ills of the black community in 2025 on the racism, is it possible that some of it might have something to do with the fact that a hell of a lot of people in the black community promote criminality, such as in the music, such as in who we endorse? Is it possible that maybe the black community is promoting it?
Yes, it is. No, you ain't say nothing new. It is. And that's what I'm talking about. From each side has to understand that it is something that inside you're going to have to fix. It is. Even if that is something that was generationally put in from before and it passes down, eventually you got to get to a point where you get it. And I'm going to say this, like you're at an age now that you know it, and you try to promote something.
I knew it then, though. I knew it when I was 17. You couldn't have paid me to be involved in, drug dealing. I knew then it was bad. I mean, I knew it then.
But have you noticed, like you said, the age before is younger and younger because they're figuring out that a lot of us is getting through the cracks of whatever was supposed to slow us down. Now, older people are trying to talk to younger people. We're trying to put this stuff out. And like I said, it's more than a color thing. Man, this is they have a science warfare. And yes, we don't need to put fixing it on anybody else but ourselves. Yes, you are right. But if you put a virus out there and it gets out far enough, it's going to be about crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like when a child is born in the middle of a ghetto or whatever, the way that he has to survive is going to be so dramatic that getting that child out, that's why we try to catch them young to say it's a different way. It's almost like you can't not.
Listen. Because I grew up in this stuff. I was in the Robert Taylors in Chicago. I mean, I grew up in it.
Outlier.
Yeah.
How about the rest of
I didn't. My whole family, brothers and all, none of us got felonies. My whole family.
That's the beautiful thing. What did we say? One of the dangerous things is a black family that it was doing. Not your family, because you came from a seed that was being able to be.
I think something. I gotta move it on, but I'll just tell you this. I think a lot of it boils down to some folks did not want to go through the process of working at a minimum wage job and going to school, and it was just easier to sell drugs and make the money now than having to go 10 years before you could establish yourself. I think that has a lot more to do with it than just a white man.
No, it does. Yes, we do have better opportunities, but I'm just saying if you're right, but it is a reason nobody is going to put themselves through harm for no reason. And
for greed. Greed is the reason. I gotta go, but greed is the reason, man. I'm telling you. Anytime. You're always welcome back. Thank you. And I will tell you that's exactly. Giving you my own story growing up on the south side of Chicago. Yeah, hell yeah, I was poor. In fact, when I went to school, I was on the bus. I didn't get my first vehicle until I was in my 20s. I was like 20 years old. I had already got my associate's degree. I was riding a bus all the way across town to go to school, leaving the house at 5 in the morning, getting out of school at 1 o'clock, working on my associates, go home, eat some lunch. Then I caught the bus back to United Parcel Service, where I worked as an unloader, and then caught the bus back home and got home about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And got up the next morning and did that shit all over again. And I lived poor those 2 or 3 years, 2 years for the associates, and then went on and got a BA and a master's degree. But I was living poor, period. Couldn't afford the best clothes, couldn't afford a pair of Jordans like a lot of folks wanted, the shit they were wearing back then. And I had people on the block, people in the neighborhood tell me, just moving a little bit of product would make a significant difference on how I was living my life. You could afford a car now. I chose not to do it. And now keep in mind, this ain't had nothing to do with the white man. I'm not saying the white man is innocent. I'm not saying there's not a hell of a lot of tentacles still existing from the white man on the black community. But when we're talking about committing major felonies and blaming that on the white man in 2025, and by the way, my period, we're talking about in the early 90s. And it's gotten even better now in 2025. It's gotten far. In fact, where I'm from, city of Chicago, most of the powers that be in Chicago now are black people. I mean, from the mayor on down, most of the powers that be in these cities are black people. So I hate to push back on that level, but I'm just simply saying in 2025, if you're out committing major felonies to get by, I think a lot of that is more so by choice. Or perhaps your family was not there for you. Maybe you grew up in a foster care system or something like that and you lost your way. But I don't think you can really blame it on, like south side of Chicago, ain't nobody even white in my neighborhood. So I gotta get somebody over here to let me know what I'm missing, but I don't see it. Maybe I'm overlooking something. Maybe somebody can help me out with this, but I don't see it. Looking in the comments, and I'll continue on with Arsha Fine. Good evening. Welcome to the program. Appreciate you holding on, Arsha. We're talking about rooting for the bad guy, but I saw you were telling me in regards to police, you don't have to be a criminal. You still can get screwed over. Is that what you were telling me?
No. What I had said was because I think it was MAGA Reacts had said that you can get loans if you have a felony on your record.
Yes.
And that is absolutely untrue. If you want to go to college, get a degree, say you mess up, you're an adult, you have a felony on your record, whatever that may be, it could be nonviolent, drug, whatever. You can, and you want to better yourself, decide if you want to go to school, get a degree, you are automatically disqualified to get a student loan. That is a very, very big wall.
Well, I'll say this because I got a relative, a younger relative that does have a felony on him. Now, out of my family, none of us got one, but I got a younger relative that has one. And they're able to go to trade school. The thing about it is what you're talking about is correct. How the system was in effort to keep people of color down. People got caught up in the system. Once they got a felony, you're guaranteed they're going to stay down. Well, a lot of liberal areas have went around that by doing things in their own. I mean, I know people who you can still go to trade school with a felony, and as opposed to getting a loan, they will make the school free. I mean, there's still ways to do this. Go ahead.
I do believe that certain things are made a little bit harder, and you have to be patient, and you have to do the work, and work 10 times harder than the person that doesn't have that same thing on them.
But Arsha, we are talking. I agree with you here that that there are hurdles in place, but keep in mind we are talking about once you get a felony, which is going to lead to the obvious pushback. Just don't get the damn felony. If you don't get the felony, is there anything stopping you from having some resemblance of the American dream as a person of color?
I would want to say, people are like, why didn't this gentleman make himself better? Why didn't he pull himself up by the bootstraps? Why didn't he take advantage? We all make mistakes. A lot of us just haven't been caught. And we've all made mistakes in this world.
True. That is true.
And some of them, if we would have been caught, might have been a felony, depending on the time in history, right?
Alter Ego in the comments is even saying you can absolutely get a student loan as a felon. You got me wanting to look this up, Arsha, because I don't know. I know that Biden tried to do something about that, so maybe that was just one of the many things that he did that I forgot existed, because I know he did a lot for that obstacle. I was an over-the-road driver for a short period of time, and I know for a fact you can drive as a truck driver as a felon. Or you can expedite there are jobs available for felons. It depends. Go ahead.
It's really interesting though, because I've been a licensed cosmetologist in the state of Oregon for 25 years.
Okay.
Every single time I fill out my renewal to update my license through the state, they ask me if I have been convicted of a felony within the last 2 years. And if I have been convicted of a felony in the last 2 years, they revoke my license.
So go ahead.
And that's because that's licensing, right? So that's different than a loan. That's like state license. Like you can't have defaulted on your loan.
That I know. Here's what.
And you can't have a felony. But yeah, I hope to God, like if you have a felony, you can go to get a student loan.
Here's what AI. This is Google AI, so take it with a grain of salt. But AI says, yes, individuals with felony convictions are generally eligible for federal student loans and financial aid. However, there are some exceptions, particularly for those convicted of certain sexual offenses and who are subject to civil commitment. So, the typical felonies that a person may get caught up in due to, let's say, racism is not going to make you go out and sexually assault somebody. You're talking about more like drug dealing and gangbanging. Sounds like you can still get one.
Well, that is fantastic. So I stand corrected. I will not.
I didn't know.
Yeah. I know you can have your license revoked, though, if you have, like, a license through the state and any sort of health board. So, like, if you are a nurse or, things like that, once you are licensed, you cannot have anything on your record.
Yeah, I see. I even see another line here that says, once you release the eligibility, I think I'm reading that right, eligibility limitations related to your incarceration will be removed. In fact, you may apply for aid before you're released, so your aid is processed in time for you to start school. Drug convictions no longer affect federal student aid eligibility. So
well, I think that's fantastic. Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
that was not the case. So to people that say we'll go back to like where we are now versus where we are then, it's like if you look at what yours and mine, because you and I are both like born in the 70s,
right.
Like what our parents had to go through, what our grandparents
it was bad. Now they had a legitimate right to complain, but oddly enough.
But what I'm saying is, are we there? No. But have we come a long way? Absolutely. And you can't like throw away all the things, although not perfect, that we have progressed with as a society.
Here's what is odd is that even though we're not perfectly there in regards to racial equality, you admit, and I think everybody would admit, we have moved closer to that than say the 1960s. But oddly enough, the black community behaves worse now than they did in the 1960s. We weren't taking each other's lives and doing all of that in the 1960s.
I'll say the LGBT movement moved fairly swiftly. I mean, they were always there. Trans people have been around forever. People dressing in drag, gay people, lesbians, all the things. And they had to closet their lives. For some reason, I mean, and don't get me wrong, they are definitely a marginalized group, but there is still something in our society, and you can say it's systemic racism, that still disproportionately affects Black men, Black youth. So.
Yeah, and I don't, like I said, I don't disagree. If America was 60% black and only 15% white, chances are it would not be fair for the white race either. I get that point. There's going to always be some of it. But what I'm saying is, when you look at what's going on in the black community with just the sheer lack of safety in a lot of cities, where people are literally committing violent felonies against each other, often juveniles, can you really blame that on racism?
I don't know what you're talking about. My family lives in a city, a black town. I don't hear anything what you're talking about.
What city are you talking about?
From Portland, Oregon, but my dad grew up in Southside Chicago.
You don't know what I'm talking about in regards to Portland, Oregon, and Chicago, Illinois, really? I would invite you to watch the news.
The crime has actually really gone down. I mean,
it's still a significant amount of crime in those cities, and it's predominantly in areas of people of color. I mean, Chicago does have white residents, but most of the crime is happening in black areas. And I'm saying, is that due to racism?
There's a reason that is allowed to happen.
Explain. You said allowed to happen.
Yes, I think because kind of like your last couple callers was like DenCal and then the gentleman before, if you see yourself, growing up as a human in those areas and you're a black boy or a black girl, you're gonna hear certain things and see certain things that put you as what you look like, your identity, as a different type of person. I mean, it's been, black women girls are more sexualized. And we're talking about girls, like 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, are more sexualized because we happen to develop, earlier than, our, European counterparts. And black boys are seen, as dangerous, violent, like this whole thing. So if that's all you perceive of yourself, and it's being fed to you by media or just stereotypes or whatever.
So by you're saying by telling blacks that they are violent, that incentivizes blacks to just go ahead and live up to the standard.
I just think that whenever your character on the show or on the movie is a piece of shit, you're going to think that you're just meant to be a piece of shit. You can take that however you want to take it. There's just certain things I believe, just living in my own skin, that you have to do things a little bit differently than...
To me, you kind of sound like the right that suggests that if a child is exposed to the LGBTQ community, it motivates them to become LGBTQ. And I often say, even as a kid, I don't care how many dicks you show me, I'm not going to want one. And it's the same thing with crime.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's what you're saying. If you expose them to it, it makes you want to be one.
No. We know why ghettos and projects were created. They weren't created to make black people feel free.
I know, I'm not arguing with that, but you're saying because they have suggested that black people are violent and all this, That is what if black people have seen nothing, like you say, the lead character in the movie is a piece of shit. So it gives me the motivation to become a piece of shit and no better motivation to do better for myself. That's what you're saying.
I think you're taking it out of context, because I'm thinking that you can be a product of your environment. And if people of that environment don't believe, you know, it's not easy to leave those kinds of places, and you have to be, you know, willing to fail.
It actually is. I mean, I hate to sound like, because I'm definitely.
My grandmother moved my dad's family out of Southside Chicago, drove them all the way because my dad.
It ain't. You know something? I'm gonna tell you something, and I hate to come across as some privileged guy, because I'm not gonna tell you I only got $1 million loan from my dad and became a billionaire or something crazy like that. But in 2025, it ain't hard to lead a hood. It just is not. I mean, it ain't hard to find a job paying a salary that's enough to move out of the hood. I'm not saying you're gonna go out and buy a mansion or some lavish home, but if you live in a dilapidated part of town, like, you know, you live in Detroit where all the properties are boarded up and shit, the idea that you're 40 or 50 years old and saying, I just never had the opportunity to leave here, it ain't that hard to do that. If that's what you want to do, you can do it.
Maybe you enjoy the community that you're in, because y'all have been in the same situation for a long time.
Then that's different. You know, then come out and say you enjoy it. Don't blame it on the white guy. Just say you enjoy living here.
I don't think anything's necessarily blamed on the white guy. I just believe that if you were to take Carl and Jamil and put them on the exact same path, on the exact same schools, with the exact same piece of paper, the exact same credentials.
I'm assuming you're not talking about Carl Weathers. Carl is a white guy, right? I'm just playing. Go ahead.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. You know, I'm talking about Carl Lewis. You're talking about a white guy. You know, I agree that opportunities are still somewhat better for whites in America than blacks. But when I say that, I'm talking about in terms of there's a glass ceiling out there somewhere. But the glass ceiling may be 20 stories up. Ain't nobody stopping you from leaving the first floor. You might not be to get to the penthouse, but you can be higher up than the basement floor. There's no excuse for you to still be living in the basement in 2025. You might not be to reach the penthouse, but when you're talking living in dilapidated areas, you can climb from that. It ain't that. Racism ain't that strong.
And that's where I say the black community are the only people we are going to have to help ourselves. Like unify, create a community, realize we're in this on our, don't rely on the federal government to do certain things for you. Don't rely on these things. Like, there's lots of things in history of like movements and stuff within, whether it's the Black Panther Party or, what have you, of, having, creating free meals for your own community. They did that on their own. Creating, helping kids get shoes, things like that. I think that is the way I would like to see the communities.
I agree, but I'm just going to say, even in the black community, even among minorities, if you really just want to better yourself, you go out and work hard, go to school, get an education, avoid the law, and you really want to work hard. You may not go as far as a white person, and that is something we can talk about, but the idea that you got to stay in this neighborhood and sell drugs, I don't see that.
No, that is not an automatic only, profession for a black person in this day and age.
And that's what I'm talking about. You got all of these folks.
I agree. I believe that, yes, there is opportunity out there. And, finding people that can help you figure out how to do certain things, that also helps. Because at the end of the day, none of us really do this completely on our own. It's people that help us and, we're, filling out an application or,
And that help is available if you actually, like I said, I went to school and I was fairly poor and I started out with a loan from the government, and the loans was there because, if you make below a certain income, there were more loans available to you. And that was in the early 90s. So I just don't see the part where you got to go out, people who are actually committing felonies, talking about, I got to do this to feed my family. To me, that just sounds like an excuse to justify the poor situation you've put yourself in. But I'll give you the last word.
I don't disagree.
Thank you. Especially where you live in that, girl. Especially where you live in that.
What we need to figure out as a society is, why are people still believing that they have to do that? That's the root of the problem. So
some might say it's possibly because they want an excuse to justify what they did, as opposed to admitting I failed myself. You know, I got myself in trouble. Now I can't get a job. As you say, that some of the loans ain't available. I have to admit that the reason that my life is so fucked up is because of something I did. So it's better to have somebody else you can blame it on, such as the illegal immigrants in this country that are being blamed for every damn thing. When people don't want to admit.
Okay, so when we have a president of the United States who does not accept accountability for anything.
Exactly.
Why is it that all of a sudden, it's not a fluke that all of a sudden American citizens don't believe that they should have to be accountable for their actions? We see it all the time.
Yeah. I'll go. I gotta move it on, but I'll discuss it on the other side. But you are right about that.
That never happened when we were growing up, Tim.
Fair enough. I agree. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And I will say what I was getting into and what she was talking about people not taking accountability. Right now, there's a huge issue with getting illegal immigrants out of this country because people believe that, you know, they're taking jobs, they're committing crimes, they're slinging fentanyl on the public and things like that. Her taking accountability, the way I interpret it, and you can let me know in the comments if you think I got it wrong here, and tap the screen. Give me on up to 50, 60,000. We can certainly make that happen. Tap the screen, get the likes up. Her point about not taking accountability, all of this shit is not the fault of the illegal immigrants. It's not the fault of the Chinese. It's the fault of us. It's the fault of us. And I'm going to give it to you from a standpoint of just simply saying we're all one group. I'm not going to go into the black and white thing, but damn it, you know what I'm talking about. Fact is, once we defeated the Native Americans and this land became ours, you could have kept it as white, as Christian, as English speaking as you wanted. But no, we wanted to exploit other people, whether it's bringing African Americans over here to do the work that they should have been doing their damn self. They wanted to exploit them. Same thing's happening now with the illegal immigrants. You don't want to pay American salaries, so you're bringing these folks over to exploit them and not pay them under the table. The problem ain't those folks. They're not coming in the country forcing any damn body to ingest fentanyl. The people want it. Child trafficking. How many Americans are complaining that some immigrant tied them to the ground and made them enjoy a kid? The people want it. Same thing with the jobs. Ain't no immigrant forcing nobody to hire them. The people want it. Same damn thing with China. We're blaming China for all of this shit. They're taking all the jobs, the unfair trade imbalance. China never forced us to move manufacturing there. We did it. We did all of this shit. She is 100% right about folks in this country not taking accountability. One thing you hear about Trump while he's in effort to get this stuff straight, you don't hear him blaming Americans for none of it. And Americans are responsible for all of it. All of it. There are rumors that even suggest Trump himself has indulged in the labor of illegal immigrants to do some of his projects. It's Americans. You can't blame somebody. If I'm going to give you something that you really need, I can't blame you for taking it. If I'm giving you something that my family or my friends were hoping to get, but I'm giving it to you because some kind of way it's an advantage to me to give it to you, I can't blame you for taking it. It's my family and my friends that should blame me for giving it to you. Americans are the ones that have done all of this shit. But we're blaming all of them because they're changing the country. They're, as Trump says, they're poisoning the blood of the country. They were invited. They were invited. Whether it's labor, whether it's, like I mentioned, the drug trade, they were invited. But yet we're blaming them. Same thing with the Chinese. We wanted that cheap labor. But now we're going to blame them for just doing a damn job? We all would do it. Any of us, if we were living financially strapped the way the Chinese have been living over the last, few decades up to the 1980s when we started, we would have taken the work as well. It's not their fault. It's our fault. Greedy Americans did not want to pay us a decent salary, so they went over there and done that shit. She is absolutely right about not taking accountability. Looking in the comments, though, corporate greed. Yeah, corporate greed is 100% behind. I don't know, you guys know about Christian food recipes. Let me go back to the box, tap the screen. You can go to large cities like Seoul, Tokyo, Shanghai, and not worry about getting scammed or robbed. Well, it helps when you look. America has a love of guns. So American citizens, in comparison to the government, are far more powerful than citizens in other countries. I mean, the fact is, in America, you can own a hell of a lot of firepower. So in other countries, you can get that shit under control more. Like when I lived in Australia, you could just see the difference in police. And they have diversity in Australia as well. They do have, they have brown people and some of the same racist aspects, not as bad as America because the history is not as bad, but they do have brown people as well. But because they know the citizenry is unarmed, the police are far more relaxed when they pull you over. In America, when a cop pulls you over, if you watch any police stop in America on YouTube or on some of these video channels, you'll notice they always touch the back quarter panel of your car. Anytime the police make a traffic stop, just about anywhere in the country, they touch your car. You know why they do that? So if something happens to them, they can prove that they actually were in contact with you because their fingerprints are on your car. The us against them mentality in America is far greater than it is in other countries because they don't worry about their citizens having a firepower that they have. In America, we want to have the same firepower as the government. So when the government encounters us, they often fear for their lives because they can and often do get killed. But that's a different line. Let me go back to the box. Giving everybody firearms does have cons as well. It ain't all pros. There's pros and cons to it. But one of the cons is it's easier to get shot by police. Because if I'm in Australia and I'm reaching around in my glove compartment or I'm reaching under the seat doing a traffic stop, the first thing that comes to the officer's mind is not that he's going for a gun. In America, they don't even want you to talk to them with your hands in your pocket. Keep your hands out your pocket. They just expect drama. That can cause and lead to problems, and it often does. Going back to the box, one of my subs, Jeremy, good evening. Welcome to the program. That's the problem, but USA doesn't want to address it. 100% agree with you there, Chris. 100%. Jeremy, good evening. How have you been? I'm doing good. Good to have you back on. What am I getting wrong here? I'm open for criticism today. A lot of folks are coming at me. Tell me, what am I getting wrong here with this shit?
So far, I don't think you're getting a whole lot wrong. I actually agree with you on most of what you're saying, including us effectively putting our jobs overseas. It was out of greed because we knew that China was poor and that they were communists, and communists don't care about their own citizens, so they can pay them shit wages and stuff like that. So there was greed, absolutely, by Americans. But the thing is that doesn't make it any better because there are Americans out there who thought this is a bad idea. You shouldn't do this. I think that now that we've kind of learned our lesson, I think that it's a good thing that we're deciding let's bring jobs back to America. I don't know if we learned our lesson at all. I'm still not hearing anybody talking about going after the Americans that did it. I mean, I still hear the right in particular being very defensive of corporations. You still, a lot of the folks on the right still think corporations are people too, and you shouldn't be able to tell them what to do, less regulation. That's what got us in this stuff. The less you regulate a corporation, the more they're going to exploit that for their advantage. That's kind of how this happened. Well, to a degree, but as we know, there is such thing as red tape. There is such thing as over-regulation, where it becomes so expensive and so hard to actually run a business that it becomes easier just to ship it overseas. We have higher taxes over here than they do over there. It's actually harder to build.
Let me tell you why I disagree with that. It ain't harder or more expensive to run a business. What happened is back when we had Zenith, we had Magnavox, we had actually electronic brands that were made in this country, and we actually paid the employees a good salary. The difference back then was the head of the company, like the CEO, they only may have made 20 to 50 times what the lowest employee made. If you want to make 300 to 400 times what your lowest employee makes, now you got to hire a few Chinese. The reason why it costs more is because they want to make this astronomical salary now that they didn't used to make. That's where the problem is.
I'm not saying that that's completely untrue. But I think there's multiple reasons why you can do the same thing.
Get rid of that.
I don't think that it's untrue to say that it is expensive to run a business in the United States when it comes to things like manufacturing.
Get rid of
it's actually more expensive.
Get rid of CEOs making hundreds of millions of dollars, and I guarantee you'll be able to bring a lot more American jobs back. But you're not going to be able to make it happen because Trump is talking about, well, I want to bring jobs back to America. The only way you're going to bring jobs back to America while letting those folks continue making these huge salaries is to lower American salaries down to what the Chinese are making. Until you address the fact that they have made a lot more money over the last generation or two than they used to. If you don't address that, you're not going to fix this.
See, I'm not concerned about how much a CEO makes.
Then you're not going to fix it.
No, can you let me explain why?
Yeah.
Right. So here, the reason why I'm not concerned about that is because I'm more concerned about how much the lowest employee makes more than I am about how much the highest employee makes. So, I'm a dishwasher, okay? That's what I do right now. And I make $15 an hour. And in my state, the minimum is $7.25. And so I make it enough where I could actually live on my own. I'm saving up right now so I can move out eventually. But that to me is justified because the CEO of the business that I work for makes probably about 100 times what I make. And that's okay. That's okay with me because as long as I'm not getting screwed, why should I care if the guy on top is making a lot more? It's not taking out of my wallet. It's only when we get to the point where we will get to that point by hiring out foreign labor in the first place that it becomes a problem.
But that's what it is. You said I don't mind what he makes as long as I'm not getting screwed. That's where the problem is. You as a dishwasher making $15 an hour do not believe you're getting screwed. But you got a lot of folks who have had to go to college and get a degree to make barely more than you who think they are getting screwed. And their CEO is making crazy money like that. For them, a dishwasher making $15 an hour, you're actually above average. That's not where most Americans are. Most Americans are out here working for jobs, and every time their benefits get renewed, they get less health care, higher deductibles. The company is making excuses to do all of this shit. And you're hearing about the CEO getting a bonus for saving the company money by paying you less. That's what most people are dealing with. They're not getting paid like you as a dishwasher who's making enough money to live off of. These folks are going out getting an education, and they still don't have enough to live off of. So you're above everything.
A lot of these people aren't. Well, a lot of these people who are getting their education in college, they're out the gate. They're not working the jobs that they went to college for, or they're doing an internship. You see, unfortunately, one thing about college that we have to remember is that a lot of times, it's not useless. I hate when people say that college is useless. I think that college has its usefulness, but I think that the problem is that a lot of times, a lot of companies that hire people for college degrees are either outsourcing a lot of this the way we do a lot of other jobs that are lower level jobs. So a lot of immigrants are actually getting jobs remotely or being given H-1B visas to come into this country and replace a lot of native workers. But also, there's also other problems that, sometimes these companies just want you to have a lot of experience right out of the gate. You ever see that at, a job?
Yes.
Where they're entry level this, 3 years experience.
Yeah.
Wait, how the fuck am I supposed to get that? Right?
Yes.
They're all saying, how am I supposed to get 3 years of experience when they all want that? Yeah, a lot of that has a big problem. Okay, so a lot of times I've known people who do have college degrees who were working right next to me in the dish room.
Jesus. Well, yeah, that's terrible. But I think where you and I have a disagreement is you're not focused on the salaries that are going out at the top. And I believe it's imperative that you do, because it is the pursuit of those high salaries that's causing all the problems at the bottom. They're the reason why every time, like I said, they renew your benefits, you pay more for your health care and you get less. Now, maybe as a dishwasher, you probably don't get that at all. But for most of working Americans that, you know, that have a family, they need health care, and they keep raising the deductibles and out-of-pocket costs, and the coverage keeps going down. Or you have folks who have worked at a job and they're being told for a fourth year in a row they're not getting a raise. All of these folks, the losses that they are enduring, the company is wrapping that up as a bonus to the guy at the top. Well, you just saved the company $25 million this year. We'll give you a $5 million bonus. So it's incentivizing him to pay you less because it's going in his pocket. When you look at how things have went in this country, before you're young, but before going back to the 70s and 80s, you'll notice the salary for the average worker has continued to take a dive, and the salary for the top has continued to rise. Those things are correlated. And so until you get the top salaries under control, you're not going to get the bottom under control, because you got to stop that runaway shit.
I don't think that's entirely true, and here's why. So you gotta think about it like this. Payroll is actually one of the biggest expenses that a business has. One of the biggest. And when it comes to profit margins, let's say that you were to take the CEO. Let's say he makes, I don't know, let's make him a billionaire. So he makes $500 million a year. And I say that because most billionaires are not liquid billionaires, right?
Yeah.
So let's say he makes $500 million a year or something like that. Let's say you actually try to just start dividing up how much he actually makes amongst all of his employees. If he works for a Fortune 500, he can have thousands of workers all over the world that are getting paid that.
That ain't how you do it. You can put a cap.
The more you break down how much he actually makes and start giving that away to the individuals, the thinner those margins become, and eventually you might only get a few $100s. So you might only get a few $100s more a year, if you for every employee that gets paid more because we gave him less. It's like a pyramid. Okay, the higher up you go, the fewer people that are up there, right, and the more money everyone gets, and the lower you go, the more people are at the bottom. Right? So the math just doesn't math.
My opinion is different from yours. When I look at the increase of the percentage of a CEO's salary based on what the company is making, there is no excuse why their salaries have ballooned like this. You're not selling more product. I mean, you take someone like Steve Jobs, or you take someone like Bill Gates, or some of the modern day CEOs. I don't see how they're doing much better than, say, a Rockefeller or a Kennedy from their days. Yet they're making significantly more money from their companies than them folks were in their days. You know, the Howard Hughes, them folks who were rich back in those days when they were paying higher taxes and employees were making good wages, they were not making this huge percentage of the company's earnings like they are now. It ain't like the CEOs are working harder or doing better or making bigger sales than they were back then. They're just taking more of the profit.
Well, there are more people on the earth. There's more dollars going through the system.
We're talking about percentages.
So, in recent times, our population has gone up exponentially. So ever since the Industrial Revolution, I don't remember the exact numbers, but you can probably look it up for yourself. But if you look at how much our population has gone up ever since things like refrigeration and the refrigerated train car has gone up, it is exponential. It is like,
so what's your point?
Ridiculous amount. There are just more people to buy products from. Like, there are more people to sell to. There are a larger percentage. We're all richer. We all live like better than kings did.
No, I disagree. I would tell you back in the 70s and 80s, only dad had to work, and dad could afford to take care of the whole family, with mom staying home to raise the kids. Now mom and dad are struggling and they working together. So we ain't all richer. I don't agree with that. Now the CEO, on the other hand, is significantly richer than he was back then. Significantly. So it's
No, I'm dead serious. Like, look at any king in the 1500s. We all eat like kings in the 1500s.
Oh.
Like we all like we are all.
well, yeah, the 1500s. Okay, that's I don't know where the 1500s. I don't know where to go with that. What I'm simply saying is, if you compare the income for the average American in the 70s and 80s, or even the 60s and 70s, to what is going on now, Americans are working a lot harder and they're getting a lot less for their money from their employer. They're getting paid a lot less. And back in the 70s and 80s, you didn't have to go and become $80,000, $90,000 in debt from college loans. You could come straight out of high school, get a decent job that would cover your family. Now you got to go to college, take this huge debt, and it still ain't enough. Meanwhile, the guy at the top makes more than he did back then. You don't see this?
Well, I do want to respond to what you just said, but before I do want to say, I do want to comment on the whole, like, you know, like black kids, like in the ghetto, like shooting each other and stuff like that. I do want to
real quick go into that, because I do got to move it on. Go, give me what you got.
So for the second thing,
Yeah.
okay. So with that, there's actually a professor known as Dr. Jared Jensen that you might want to look up on your own time. And he said, like, he said the way he described it is, you know, why is it that like kids is in the corner were shooting each other that look like mirror images of each other? It's because they want to die, and there's kind of a natural desire to want to die when you get old enough, but it should be a spiritual death. You know, either the child needs to die in order for the man to emerge. And that's how he looks at it. It's a very complicated philosophical
that's interesting.
belief. Yeah, but you might want to look him up. Dr. Derek Jensen is his name. Yeah. The last thing I will say about that whole conversation about kids getting into gangs and stuff like that. I think that the biggest problem we can overcome in order to make that go away is we need to watch out for the younger ones, the youngest of kids, because here's what gangs love. They love kids that are young and impressionable. Yeah. Like nowadays, it's not like 17 and 18-year-olds. Now it's like 12 and 13-year-olds. And if we can keep the gangs away from those kids, that's going to be a lot better, because you're a lot more intelligent when you're in your late teens and early 20s.
I don't disagree with it. Somebody mentioned opportunity, that kind of sparks that, but I got to move it on, Jeremy. I don't disagree with that, Coach. Thank you. You appreciate it. You too. Looking in the comments, what is this guy? Hi, are you suggesting that I look high on my caller? Don't tell the Mexicans I said this. Pay attention to overseas shipments, or I be talking it all. What? Retro? I don't know what you're getting at there. Before we continue on, I survived on $16 with a wife and kid. You survived on making $16 an hour with a wife and kid. It's doable as long as you're in a low-cost area and can get things like food stamps. Then you're not surviving on $16 an hour. If you're getting food stamps, you're not surviving. I can't believe you just said that. He said, I survived on $16 an hour with a kid. It's doable as long as you're in a low-cost area and you can get things like food stamps. It's definitely not comfortable though. If you're getting food stamps, you're not surviving. Food stamps is essentially somebody giving you extra money. When you go to buy food, it's like somebody that you're not surviving. Take the food stamps away and you collapse. You're not surviving. It's an interesting way of looking at it, though. I'm surviving off of $15. It's kind of like some of these independent women. I don't need it, man. I can survive all on my own. And you find out when you're getting a bunch of alimony and child support. No, you ain't surviving on your own. If his income don't come in, you fail. You ain't surviving on your own. You surviving off of him. Stop corporate welfare, says Lisa and Coach Jim. That ain't gonna happen with Trump. That is not gonna happen with Trump. Trump is getting involved in insider trading. I mean, he's selling his fucking Bitcoin or whatever his cryptocurrency. Trump is huge on corporate welfare. He probably is better for corporations in terms of corporate welfare than any other president we've had in our lifetime. He is huge in favor of that stuff. Best time ever if you're the head of a corporation and want to get paid. Best time ever. Looking in the comments, I don't know what I hit here, but I'll go back to the box, continuing on, and I'll go straight to Sean. And on we're on Instagram as well, so I'll bring one of my Instagram callers before we continue on. Good evening, Sean. Welcome to the program.
Howdy, Tim. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you get $15 an hour washing dishes? Can you make it happen?
I don't see how.
Yeah.
Everything is costing more than it did 10 years ago.
Yeah. What about what he was saying that it's more of a concern on the entry level person's salary, but you don't really have to worry about what the guy at the top is making?
I think that's pretty dumb. When GM just redid their contracts with their CEO, and they were getting like an $8 million bonus on top of, or raise on top of what they were making of like $20 million a year. And then we wonder why all of these cars are stupid expensive now. Well, It doesn't work when you do shit like that. Greed is really
and that's what that's what I believe the problem is. As long as if I got a company and I want as a CEO for 20% or 10% of the profits, all the profits that come to me, there's only so much movement I can make because I'm going to have to. There's only so much I can do for everybody else because I want to drag this huge profit margin for me through any changes we make. And I do believe that that's what's going on.
Well, I also wonder how much that people are just spoiled today. The silliest example for me is there's that new truck, electric truck, the Slate, where they took everything that's not a car out of it, and then it's only $20,000 starting. And so we've just gotten used to all of these gigantic screens, everything at the tip of our fingers so fast. And then when it's like, hey, you're going to have to suffer a little bit, well, we're not used to suffering at all. But that's edge cases. That doesn't apply to everybody.
No, I don't disagree that we like to live a life of excess as well. Even the average American does. But I'm gonna tell you something. If I'm going to work every day and my employer is pulling up in a Rolls Royce and shit like that, damn it, I should be able to buy a smartphone down. I mean, throw your man a bone, shit. So, but when you got folks that are actively fighting against raising the minimum wage for 20 straight years, and you look at CEO salary over that period of time. I mean, those things are correlated.
I very much agree with you when you said that, this is the best president for corporate corporations right now.
Yeah.
That man is the most scheming con man. I mean, you really just look at his university, and it's very clear that he is not going to be for helping little men. He's there to nickel and dime everybody.
Yeah,
that's why we're adding this tax of tariffs on everything. Because he's saying, America's going to be so rich. No, the government will be a little richer by adding this tax on every single American.
Well, it's crazy you would mention that because he did say that the tariffs are going to make America rich. Oddly enough, I do talk to a lot of MAGA. They actually believe that if we impose these tariffs, they are going, you're not going to get any of that. I mean, if America becomes rich, it's going to be your boss. It's going to be your politician.
Tim, what I want you to start asking all of these MAGA people is who pays the tariff?
They don't.
Because the people I come across that are not, paying attention to all this stuff all the time, like I am, and Michael and everybody else on your program, they don't understand that tariffs are paid by us. They still think that the other countries are paying. And then when you even bring it up, you explain even a little bit, you see the light go off in their heads going, oh, yeah, of course other countries wouldn't be paying this tax. But nobody understands the system. And I'm not saying I understand it great, but I'm at least paying more attention.
Well, I was trying to see if I could find it, but some of that may actually be because President Trump stated a couple of days ago, in regards to, I believe a reporter asked him who's going to pay the tariffs, and he said China might eat the tariff. Yeah, 145%. I was trying to find where I could play the clip, but he actually said, well, you never know, China may eat it. Like, you really, but a lot of MAGA believe that.
10% or a 5%, but they're never going to eat 150%.
Well, he originally started out with, I think 60, when he held up the big board on all of the countries, he originally started out with a 67% tariff on China. I don't think they would even eat that. I mean, that's still a lot. So, but he said China may eat it.
Well, China's already having trouble paying for the realty. Realty. They're having trouble financing all of the contracts and buildings they're putting up already. So they're not going to take a hit governmental-wide of trillions and trillions of dollars.
So let me ask you this then, because a lot of folks, particularly my MAGA side, believe that we're going to beat China in this tariff war. You think there's a good chance of that happening?
No.
Yeah.
We're going to have empty shelves, and then people will finally turn on Trump because they're not going to get their medicines or whatever it is.
People will turn on Trump? Are you sure?
The more middle-of-the-road MAGA.
No, I think
But like somebody like Jeremy, somebody like MAGA Reacts, somebody like DJ Julio will never change his
MAGA. You think MAGA Reacts?
And still go on.
You think MAGA Reacts is gonna turn on Trump? Really?
No,
wow.
I'm saying MAGA Reacts will never.
Okay.
But the people who are more in the middle of the road and I just voted for his policies.
Yeah, and I see in the comments.
Policies really start hurting them.
And I see in my comments, Kim Smith, obviously a woman, says, "No, we won't. You wish, caller." So even a female, there's still a hell of a lot. You know.
I wish that.
Huh?
I do wish that.
You wish that Trump supporters would turn on him. Well.
Yeah, 100%. The same way they all hope that we would turn against Biden or Kamala.
Well, a lot of liberals.
Both ways. I'm not denying that.
Yeah, but a lot of liberals, whether it's Gaza or his age, a lot of liberals did turn on Biden. But no, you're not likely to get any. I don't think you're likely to get any MAGA turning on Trump no time soon.
Yeah, but the people in the middle of the road, the ones that actually swung the vote around, when they start hurting or they're not able to get the things they actually need, well, all these companies are going to go under because they can't actually bring in any of the equipment anymore.
Maybe in his.
It's not going to happen.
It might happen at the beginning of his fourth term. Maybe. Not likely anytime soon. I think I still give folks, when I ask for letter grades in regards to judging Trump, people are still giving him an A+. So maybe in the fourth term.
I was listening to the previous broadcast with DJ Julio talking about his plumbing business and how it's only going to take a year. Oh, it might take 2 years. But he doesn't understand. I mean, these people, I feel a lot of people do not understand how long it takes to actually get a facility built, to actually get any of these manufacturing built or made. When you get the blanks to actually do mold injections or part injections, they send those giant blanks off to China to have them made and then sent off to everywhere else.
Yeah,
so
but
even if we do start making it here, we have to have those pieces made somewhere else. We don't do that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but
it hurts their feelings. But if we don't do it, then we can't make it.
Yeah,
it's not that crazy.
But as long as you got Trump saying it's going to just hold on a little bit longer. You know, you want to get rid of me and put a liberal in office and destroy our whole country and put all the blue hair people back in Congress? I mean, I think they'll wait a lot longer than you might think.
Yeah, the most lyingest man ever is going to be always right, huh, Tim?
I'm just telling you. Let me ask you something, because you were here when I was talking about the notion that blacks are committing all these crimes in black areas due to racism. Yeah, now you heard my opinion. Do you think, did I get anything wrong there?
I don't know, Tim. It's very much situational. It's very much the person's mental state and how it's nature and nurture. It's not just one or the other. And so it's really hard to make a generalization about that. there's still crazy people. So if they're
Yeah, but then,
gonna,
I guess
they're gonna do some dumb shit.
yeah, let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. I guess the question I'm asking is America in 2025 so racist that you got to go out and do a drive-by or sell drugs to make a living?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
That's the point I
I
was
think
making.
there's enough diversity everywhere, but there is also some bad areas
Yeah.
where that's where they feel that's all they have. Now, in that area, that might be true, but as a generalization, no.
Okay. And I guess I also have to wonder, what area are you in that's so bad you can't leave it? I mean, it just, I don't know. It doesn't, I just can't imagine it. I'd rather, if I had to live in my car or, something like that and work day labor to get myself out of a certain neighborhood to go somewhere else where there's more opportunity, I would do it. I just think it's folks oftentimes choosing the easiest route out and just not being willing to put in the work to better themselves. And racism can be used as a crutch to, I'm not saying, and keep in mind, I'm not saying.
I'm just thinking, if people aren't even willing to understand how the tariff works and who's paying that, then they're probably not willing to expand their mind and get out of the bad situation.
I'll give you that.
So,
I'll give you that.
like, ignorant people are always going to be in trouble.
I'll give you that. All right, I'll give you that. All right, so I didn't get anything wrong. I will move it on this, Sean. Thank you for coming through, Sherbert.
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
real quick. I'm going to Chicago at the end of the month. What are 3 things I should go check out? You can tell me on the other side of this.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. For me, well, it depends on what you're there for. One of the things, the museums, everything from, all up and down the lakefront. Certainly if you're there in the summertime or the springtime, the Museum of Science and Industry, Navy Pier is a good one. The Shedd Aquarium. I mean, I love the, whether you're going into the, what do you call it, the different buildings too, Sears Tower and whatever they call it now, but that and the John Hancock building. I mean, there's just so many things. You can get a pass that covers all of that, that gives you access to all of the museums, all of that stuff that's all near the lakefront in Chicago. I would recommend any tourist check that out. Food. The food in Chicago is difficult to rival. I mean, even most Chicagoans that leave Chicago, I don't care where they go. Unless you go to New York somewhere, you're not going to find food that comes close to what they have in Chicago. Just the amount, just the different, because everything from Vietnam, people who, Vietnamese, different types of Asian folks live in Chicago. You got Polish food, you got Greek, there's just so many different types of food. You can't, the diversity, that's the point, the word I'm looking for the great. Just about every country on the planet has someone in Chicago selling food from their ethnicity, from Ethiopian and Nigerian food, Jamaican food. You can't imitate the food. So I mentioned some of the tourist places. Food would be another one. I've never was big on nightlife, so I can't really go into that too much. I like the boat tours. Another one I would tell you, the boat tours, you can go in the river and they give you tours and explain a lot of the architecture of Chicago. And then, of course, just walking through the loop and noticing the architecture. It's another fun thing to do. So, Chicago can keep you busy for quite a while. So hopefully that helps. South Side is fun, says Big Dog. Well, the South Side is a little different, but the food on the South Side is still great. Everything from Harold's Chicken on down. I love the South Side. There's still a ton of food. Just the food in Chicago you can't match it. Do you need anything passport to visit Chicago as a U.S. citizen? No. Once you're in the country, you're in the country. Once you get past U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, you're free to move about the country. You want to go to L.A., you want to go to Vegas, you want to go to Chicago, you're free to move about. You don't need it anymore. Chicago, be sure to wear jewelry and walk through Project Tourist Friendly. Chicago really, you sound like you've been watching Fox News or something like that. Chicago really don't have any projects anymore. That stuff ended in the 90s. There's not a lot of project communities in Chicago. Not many of them anymore. So yeah, you're not going to be. I mean, they got neighborhoods that are not safe, but there's not a lot of projects in Chicago. Let me go ahead. Can white people go to the south side of Chicago? Yes. Yes, there are lots of areas on the south side of Chicago now that white people have reclaimed back. You can go to Hyde Park. I mean, there's a lot of areas on the south side of Chicago now that are white. Let me go back to the box. Can white people claim? I'll go there. Nicole Gooden. It might be a good conversation to have. Good evening, Nicole. Welcome to the program. I think he's getting at the Real ID. Oh, well, the Real ID, you need that to get on an airplane in America. Didn't that just start this week? You got to go down to the DMV and show them a birth certificate or a passport or whatever. They want to have a little bit more information on travelers. But that has nothing to do specifically with Chicago. That's just being able to get on a plane in America. And by the way, you still can get on a plane without Real ID. It's just going to be a longer security process. So you might be recommended to get to the airport an hour or two earlier, but you can still fly without it right now. Trump won't know his name by summer's end. What the hell does that mean? You said he got dementia or Alzheimer's or something? I'll give the comment. I tried to bring him to Cole. It didn't come up. Not needed, but the subject to more scrutiny without it. Yeah. Let me go on and continue on with the program. Tap the screen. Get the likes up to about 60,000. And I don't know why Nicole didn't come up. We'll continue on with Mr. Walter. Good evening. Welcome to the program, Mr. Walter. Now, I got hammered earlier for suggesting that you don't need. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drop. I'm cooking, so.
Cook something for me. Thank you. All right. Talk to you later. Okay. I mean, we continue on. Shit, you're making me hungry now. Also, you go. See, I was going to ask that the idea that folks are suggesting that you got to deal drugs and commit all kinds of violent felonies to survive in the black areas due to racism. I'm not buying into it, but I want somebody to maybe perhaps correct me on that. Let me know what I'm seeing. What am I getting wrong? For the great. Good evening. Welcome to the program. As an African American, am I getting this wrong?
What are you saying again? I'm sorry, man.
The notion that when you look in African American areas, there's a lot of violence, a lot of killing, a lot of criminality, and folks are suggesting that this happens due to racism, that they don't have any opportunities. The white man is holding them down so much they got to commit drive-bys and sell drugs to make a living. Do you see any validity in that?
No, I don't see any validity to that. We got too many examples of people that came out of that situation.
Right.
Too many. You got Isaiah Thomas out of, Jalen Rose. I mean, you grew up in the same neighborhoods. I mean, you said yourself you never taken a drink or been in any kind of trouble. So, yeah, that's bullshit.
Why do so many African Americans and people of color echo that, though? You're the first person. I mean, I had a lot of people tell me it's true. People were calling me a sellout and every damn thing, saying I was playing up to MAGA for saying that.
No, I don't understand that because in my own family, we got doctors down to, big ground movers. I mean, we all had the same fucking barbecue. I mean, it's just people make different choices, man. That's all it is. And I think in our community, we just have choices with kind of sometimes greater consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've told you before, when you live in Mayberry and everybody knows you, you're gonna get a slap on the back.
Yeah.
When you drunk driving, hey, leave the fucking truck here. You take him to a pawpaw house. Hey, sober his ass up. We don't want to see him again. In the city, shit, jaywalking and catch you a night in jail.
Yeah. And I agree with that, and that's what I stated as well. I said that I'm not denying that there are still aspects of racism on our society. However, if you don't get yourself in, if you don't break the law, and you just want to have some resemblance of the American dream, a nice apartment, a car you can call your own, as a person of color, there's nothing stopping you from getting there. Now, the hurdles are the system itself, what you're talking about. If you are someone that is involved in criminality, yeah, you're going to get punished likely as a minority harsher than somebody is white. But you got to first commit the crime to get in that predicament.
And we also have people that didn't get caught that clean themselves up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know guys that put themselves through college, maybe through the streets. And, you know, made a vow to themselves that when I graduated, that was it.
That's saying something. So you're on the street hustling, and you use the money you made from hustling to put yourself through college?
Yeah, and that's just not one story. I mean, I know a number of stories like that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's really no different than, you know, the old cliche of, you know, the girl on the pole just trying to get herself through college.
Yeah, I guess you make a good point. But being on the pole is legal, though. Now, if she's selling it out in the alley, then that's something different. But I don't think I've ever heard somebody say that before.
You know the champagne room. You know the champagne room, what they say.
You know, but you make a good point about the girl in the pole, because that is what, you know, I'm trying to put myself through college. But I have never heard someone suggest a drug dealer was selling drugs to pay for tuition. I have heard strippers talking about it, but I've never heard somebody say he was selling drugs to pay tuition.
I won't say no names because, you know, it really doesn't matter. But I know people who daddy was the fucking sheriff, the head sheriff. And his sons was out here moving more weight than the fucking law allowed.
Damn. Well, she might have been getting help from dad. You know, I learned it by watching you, Dad, as the 80s commercial used to say. I mean, let's be clear. Most folks that are moving weight probably have at least one cop on the payroll. Cops and drug dealers go together like hand in hand. There's plenty of cops that are working for the criminal element as opposed to trying to arrest and detain it.
Yeah, I mean, you got, you know, people talk about Oliver North and, you know, Ron Reagan. I mean,
yeah.
Freeway Ricky Ross, he might be the biggest patriot we got alive today.
I don't understand him. I've watched a lot of his videos on Vlad TV and stuff like that. I don't understand how somebody could have made as much money as somebody like Rick Ross, some of these bigger people, Rayful Effort and some of these. You know, if at some point, you know you rolling the dice at any time you could be locked up. You don't won the damn game. Why are you still selling? You got millions of dollars in the closet wall. Why are you still doing this shit?
Well, not to incriminate myself or anyone else I know. I used to always tell people that you can be just as addicted to the life and the money as the people that buy their supply.
Okay. So it ain't about the money. It's the addiction of the power in the game.
And the fast money. I mean, you know, money opened doors. You know, for every Rayful Edmond and Freeway Ricky Ross, think about the 2 or 3 that didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't hit the radar.
But I mean, when you think about how much money he claimed he was moving in a drug game, like, you could be sitting up somewhere filthy rich right now if you had just got out of it. Like, I mean, you were set for life. Your grandkids were set for life, and you just kept.
Well, you don't have an example of people that have money in front of you. You don't know what the fuck to do with it. So, you know, it seems like a lot of money to us, but when you're making, you know, $10,000 a day, who's telling you to keep the shit and put it up? And even as a young black man, you know, I kind of fell victim to it too. You know, we always heard you're not gonna live over 25.
Damn.
So what the fuck am I living for?
I don't think I've ever heard somebody tell me that. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I used to hear that all the time. You know, people in the streets, whatever, you ain't gonna make it past 21, 25. I'm 47 years old, and I probably haven't lost a friend to the streets in probably maybe 3 or 4 in the last 4 or 5 years. But I probably lost about 30 of them, and the majority of that was before I was 23 years old, man.
And I'm assuming none of them killed by the white man.
Nah.
That's kind of what I was talking about. A lot of my viewers did not like me saying that, but I mean, we are our own biggest enemy.
Yeah, we can be, but you know, a lot of violence is, you know, proximity too. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't go out to the sticks to go do crimes. You're doing crimes in the same community that people look like you.
But why do you think that is that in our community, we are unaliving each other at an alarming rate. And even though the white community, they ingest drugs and things like that, they don't murder each other like that. Why do you think we are so, they don't rob each other. They're not doing drive-bys and all that shit like we're doing. What makes us different?
I think what makes us different, and it could be a thing of the system as well, is that, Freeway, Ray Fred, all these guys, they didn't have the tools or anyone to show them that, hey, my kids won't be me. You know what I mean? Like, my grandmother used to tell me, rest her soul, she never really got in my business, but she would say, you're a dumb man. She's like, you're not setting yourself up to where your kids can do something better. And, my grandmother, she grew up with a diverse Italians, Jews, and everything. She said, what I saw them do was, their father was bootleggers, but their father also said, my son's going to go to college.
We don't, the crazy thing is we still don't do that to this day. We don't leave behind legacies and stuff like that. We still don't do that.
And I think it's harder to do that. And like I said, it's partly system because back in the day when that guy could kind of grease a judge or something,
yeah,
we might have had the money to grease a judge, but our money wasn't good enough because it was coming from,
it was almost akin to being dirty money. Yeah, I agree with that. But you do agree with me that as long as you are a law-abiding citizen and you're willing to work hard, you can achieve a comfortable life in America, even as a person of color.
And I only disagree with when you say law-abiding. If you don't get caught for doing anything, yeah, you can. Because, like I said, I've known people that definitely did what they had to do. And if you look at them now, some of them in prominent positions in government, I can never tell you that was that guy. But,
Wow.
We live by a code that it doesn't matter. I salute him from getting there how he got there.
Fair enough. And that is true. I do know some folks who may have done drama when they were younger, and like you said, they didn't get caught. Now they're regular working tax-paying citizens, and they're abiding by the law nowadays. So that is true as well. Like I said, as long as you don't get caught up in that system, you can kind of escape most racism. Most of the racism is involved in getting, once you commit a crime and you get caught in the criminal justice system, that's when you're going to be exposed to racism the most. And that's when it's the hardest to get away from. But I got to move on further, Great. Thank you.
No problem, man. My pleasure as always. Everybody tap the screen, get my man up.
Hell yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on with the program. I want to respond to a Will G. Says Trump ain't shit. Pakistan and India getting ready for war against each other. It's brewing for ages, but it's really bubbling up now, and bad time for iPhone production to be moved to India. Because India is making all kinds of strikes inside of Pakistani sovereign territory. Trump with the nationalist attitude, well, let's just focus on America first. I don't expect Trump to do much at all to end that conflict. And that absolutely could spread outside of that region. I mean, Trump is not a big fan of Pakistanis or Indians. So I don't expect Trump to get involved in that at all. And those are two nuclear powers. That can really be a mess, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think that if we want American intervention, we tend to stick our nose in everybody's business, and you want America to try to keep the world calm and at peace. I think we got the wrong president for that. He's hyping people up. I mean, he just had the Prime Minister of Canada in the White House. He had the Prime Minister of Canada in the White House, yesterday? And he's still talking about buying Canada, making it the 51st state. Right in front of the guy's face. The guy's telling them our country's not for sale, and he's pulling a Justin Bieber. Never say never. So we're not going to be the country that orchestrates calm around the world. So I don't know what's going to happen with India and Pakistan. Not Palestine, that's a whole other problem, but Pakistan and India, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but with Trump in office, we're not going to be responsible for it getting any better, I don't think. White people do bullshit to each other all the time. They just don't report it as much because the police and media is under their thumb. Only a matter of time before just being black is a federal offense. You think it's heading that dark, Will? I'll push back a little bit. You say white people do bullshit to each other all the time and they just don't report it. I mean, if you're white and your neighbor threatens to shoot you or something like that, the police they got to do something about it. You have to elaborate. What do you mean by they don't do much about it? When you think about what African Americans, what we do to each other in black neighborhoods, if whites were doing that to each other in white neighborhoods, you got to. I mean, if somebody drives down the street and fires off several rounds at you or shoots up a basketball game full of kids, you can't ignore that because you're white. I mean, you have to explain that. I don't know. They may be doing things to each other, like maybe some domestic violence or something, but I don't know if they're doing as much to each other in white neighborhoods that we are to each other in black neighborhoods. I mean, the death count in black neighborhoods is insane. Like, are there that many gang funerals in white neighborhoods? I'm not hearing about it. What happened to no new wars under Trump? it disappeared. I mean, just like ending the Ukrainian-Russian war in 24 hours. Some of the promises Trump made were promises just to get elected. And the no new wars under President Trump. I covered this before Trump got elected. And one of the things I was saying clearly is that Trump 2.0 is a totally different administration than Trump the first term. I was saying that before he got elected because of some of the things he's running on, some of the promises he's made. I'm like, this is not the guy that you're voting Trump back in because of the economy and the things you perceived went well for his first term. You're not going to get first term Trump. The Trump that's in there now has pretty much unchecked power. He's doing a whole lot of things that some do not like in this country that his first administration would not have let him do. The Supreme Court is more skewed. I mean, he has a lot more power now. So this is a totally different Trump than we had during the first term. But MAGA loves it. MAGA loves Trump unrestricted. Such as under Kennedy, this fucking measles outbreak. If that was happening under Biden, Kamala Harris, or Obama, the right would be going apeshit. Same thing with the aircraft industry, the airline industry, where they're telling you flat out, it's not even safe to fly in and out of Newark, New Jersey anymore, one of the nation's biggest airports. It's not even safe to fly in and out of that area. Certainly one of the nation's most crowded airspaces. Just because you don't fly in or out of Newark, don't mean that you're coming in and out of LaGuardia somewhere you can't be affected by it. I mean, they're all within really, really close proximity of each other. If that shit was happening under a liberal, the right would be going apeshit. I mean, the airline industry is fucked up from probably all of the firings that have happened. So, I mean, but folks are still giving Trump a pretty high mark on his performance so far. I can't explain it, but people are. Continuing on, Stick, the ruler. Good evening, Stick. Welcome to the program. Isn't the first measles outbreak? No, but what does that mean? Okay, well, yeah, we're having a measles outbreak under Trump, but it's not the first time it's happened. What kind of shit is that? So you get a pass? The Trump administration is not a fan of what has kept the measles in check, which is the measles vaccine. You got the head of Health and Human Services, Kennedy, speaking negatively of what has kept the measles in check. So I'm going to just suggest that lower educated among us are ignoring the medical professionals and more likely to listen to him, whereas he has no medical background at all. I mean, he, to some degree, could be getting people killed. He's certainly getting people sick. I mean, we literally had used the vaccine to eradicate the measles. This isn't COVID. This isn't a case where you can suggest they rushed this vaccine to production. They haven't tested it. They don't have the data samples. The measles vaccine is highly effective. Highly effective. And he's speaking against it. And all of a sudden, measles outbreaks are rising up. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The only ones who is giving him high marks are the ones who still hang in there with him. Other than that, it's horrible. Well, I think the problem is this, and I'll tell you this. I disagree that the only people giving Trump high marks are MAGA. The liberals still score lower poll-wise than Trump. Even with the tariffs, even with the threats towards Greenland and Canada and Panama, the shit he's saying, sending out pictures of himself as the Pope, even with all of that going on, Trump is still scoring higher in polls than the Democrats are. So we can talk about Trump all we want, but the Democrats have a major problem. If you're not scoring higher than all of the stuff that you're saying is destroying the country, then what the hell do they think of you? So you can only blame them for so much. This should be making a Democrat. Kim, I think this says Cambisi. I think even the CNN polls are suggesting that. I don't think there's any polls that are saying that the Democrats are doing better than Trump right now, Cambisi. But good evening, welcome to the program.
Hey Tim, how you doing?
You haven't heard that?
No, I haven't heard it. What polls we talking about?
Well, I know CNN, for instance, CNN poll definitely did. I'll see if I can find something while we're talking. But did I get it wrong? What brought you up here? Did I get it wrong when I talk about the fact that the American dream is available to the black community in 2025?
I'll tell you what brought me up today.
Sure.
A bit earlier, we were kind of talking about how what was going on with. You have to remind me because you said it a lot earlier. This is what you started the day with.
We're talking about rooting for the bad guy.
Bingo, rooting for the bad guy. All right, we've been rooting for the bad guy, I guess, since 2015, 2016, right?
So you're referring to Trump as the bad guy?
Yeah, I would say so. Every time he do something bad, we find a reason to say it's good, right?
Well, I don't know about, some people do. If he does something I think is genuinely bad, I don't find a reason, but you are right. There are some forms of, some folks that are MAGA. I mean, the guy can literally, because they often say he can cure cancer and you still wouldn't give him credit. There are some MAGA out there where Trump could literally create a new cancer and deliberately infect people. And hey, he thinned the herd. He helped us out. There are some people like that. I don't know if he got a call or not, but I wanted to. There you go. Okay.
I was gonna say last night. I'm not sure. I don't even know their names, to be honest. But there was a podcast kind of type deal last night where the lady was defending. The lady that was calling the little kid the N-word, right?
Yeah. She got $6 million. So $600,000 have been raised for that lady, all because she called the kid the N-word.
Right. So did you see last night? There was a lady on TV. She said she was a white supremacist, and that she thought this was okay. She wants to bring back, the idea that we have free speech. Which, it's cool. We got free speech, but we should also be held accountable for the things we say at the same time.
But what can you do if somebody calls a young child a racist slur? I mean, we do have free speech. What do you want them thrown in jail?
Right. No, it's not illegal. It's not illegal for her to say what she wants to say. She can say what she does without prosecution. But you have to accept the social things that come along with it.
That happens now. That already happens.
Yeah, I suppose.
Let's just be clear. Even though this woman fuck around and called a young kid the N-word, which is an awful thing to do, and she's raised all this money. Fact is, most Karens who are caught on video doing racist shit, it usually works against them. They lose their job. They have to hide on social media. It usually works against them. She's one of the few that's benefited from it.
Right. And So what I wanted to point out was, from last night, like I said, the thing I was watching there is the lady was kind of like, we want to bring back free speech. She's a white supremacist. This is
She admitted to being a white supremacist?
Yeah, somebody said it on live TV last night. I wish I had the name for you. I'm sorry, I don't. I wish I had that name for you if I did.
The reason why I'm saying that is because most people who have hate in their heart don't come out and admit they have hate in their heart. They usually deny it. So for somebody to go on TV and say, because I mean, I'm sure she has family members and shit like that. Like, damn, that's your cousin? That's your aunt on TV, dude? I mean, like, most of them don't admit it.
How about this, Tim? Give me 3 seconds, and I'll be back with that name so you can watch the video.
I'd be curious to, do your thing. I'd be curious to see it. But real quick, in regards to what I was talking about with him while he's looking that up.
It's flagging poll numbers. Their own numbers, not so much. The easiest answer to the Democrats' problems is the one reporters enjoy the least. It's early. Most voters rejected Democrats last year, and they're not looking at politics again until they really have to. But why are Democrats less popular now than they usually are after defeats? And why are Republicans holding on to most of their 2024 support? One reason, suggested by the actual special election results so far, is that some of the anti-democratic negativity is from people who will vote for the party anyway. Another reason is a long-term shift against the party that's been visible in voter registration patterns for 8 years.
Now that's MSNBC. So when you ask that question, Kambisi, what polls? Even MSNBC is admitting. This is from 1 day ago. This video I'm playing just was on their network on Morning Joe 1 day ago. So even MSNBC is admitting that Trump is still doing better in the polls than Democrats.
Okay, so I haven't seen that. What I've seen is right now his poll numbers are about 44%, and that's the lowest it's been since his last.
Yeah, his poll numbers are bad. He's underwater in every category. But like I said, the Democrats are not seizing on the opportunity because they're not putting forth anybody that's galvanized. They're not even galvanizing Democrats. Like right now, the Democratic Party is not even like, that's a good person we should pick for the next. I mean, each Democrat got a different person that they think would be a good leader, and they're criticizing other Democrats.
I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody that's being put forward that I think is worth putting all our eggs into their baskets. I don't see it either. I get that.
Yeah.
But on the same coin, I think we could be doing, 10 million times better with anybody else. I might have voted for a Rock over President Trump. I'll be honest.
You would have voted for a Rock? He that bad?
That bad.
Damn.
I would have voted for my pet dog. He's great. He's awesome.
Well, a lot of folks like the man.
Yeah, point is, I think he's done a lot of bad. There's been a lot of negative done as opposed to positive. But we're still fighting for him to be here. I don't get it. It's all. I don't understand.
Well, I will, in defense of Trump, I guess I'll say this. What I always say is that you can only criticize him so much because it ain't like the man didn't tell us. Most of the stuff he is doing, there's a few things, but most of the stuff he is doing, he made it clear he was going to do that if he got elected. He was clear about tariffs. He was clear about the deportations. You knew he didn't like immigrants. So we can talk about the no due process and all that other shit, but he was pretty clear that he really had a hard on for immigrants. We knew that. So, I mean,
Tim, they said he was joking. They said he wouldn't do that for real. He wouldn't really put tariffs on us. He wouldn't really do that.
No. They fuck around and found out, didn't they?
They said he wouldn't really do all this stuff,
But that ain't his fault. I mean, if he's telling you I'm gonna do this and you refuse to believe what the man is saying and you vote for him anyway, and then he go up there and actually follows through on his promise, he should get credit because he's a politician that tries to do what he says. You as the voter, you're the idiot for not listening to him.
Well, I believed what he said, and I also believed what Kamala Harris said. I think I made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, Kamala Harris is gone. Do you think you'll ever see her again?
I think we'll see her. I just don't think we'll see her in the presidency.
At the national level,
I don't think she'll be president.
Yeah.
I know you had spoken about it before. I like Tim Walton.
In fact, he's going to be on MSNBC tonight at 9, I believe. I like Tim Walz as well. I think the problem with Tim Walz, the liberal side of me, I do believe that the Democrats need their next candidate to be a straight Christian white male. I mean, right now, listen, hate is hate. We've always had racism in this country, but right now it is elevated. I'm not going to pretend like it's not, and I'm not going to pretend like Kamala Harris's answers or her lack of interviews or her defense of Biden is the only reason she lost. gender and race hurt her too. So I do believe that for at least for this next term for the Democrats, they need a straight white Christian male. And I do believe, Tampon Tim, as they call him, if he had a decent period of time to correct some of the statements he made, I think he would have done a lot better. But I mean, he only had 100 days to run, and it's hard to undo damage in 100 days.
No, you're right. You're right. Now speaking on the racism, I do want to, I want you to see this. So her name is Lily Gaddis, or I think it's Lily Gaddis. She was with, I can't even remember this name, but it's about a 2-minute clip. I mean, you won't believe it. You won't really believe what she said, but she said it.
No, but I really want to see it. I see people talking about it. I'm trying to see if I can find just her clip, because I do see people, there's a lot of people talking about it. But because I don't want to put a 7 or 8 minute clip on here.
This was last night. It's about 2 minutes, and she was on air with.
I need that name.
Piers Morgan.
She was on with Piers Morgan. Okay.
Yep.
And what exactly did she say?
So what she says is, she's defending the lady that called the kid the N-word, right?
Right.
So she goes. She's saying that she wants us to have free speech. And Piers Morgan goes, okay, well, do you say that? She said, yeah, I say it.
Damn.
Yeah, she says, yeah, I say it all the time.
So she ain't even trying to. All right, let me see. I got a little something here. This one is 23 hours old, but it's longer than 2 minutes. I'll play a little bit of it.
Look on Download.com to get our lowest rates.
Get rid of this. They have these little advertisements in here.
Yeah, but Tim, I think this just goes to show, I feel like this is kind of the direction that we're moving. I don't think everybody's like this. I don't think that everybody is, nobody wants to say this out loud or publicly, but this is just kind of the direction we're going. It's kind of the way it feels.
Yeah, if you got free speech, you're promoting you're promoting free speech without morality. And then, like I said, I don't believe under President Trump we're going to unite, because Trump takes sides. If we have, let's say, for instance, we have a race war, some kind of civil war, Trump's going to take sides. He's not going to be Abraham Lincoln, where you're trying to do what it takes to keep the country together. He's going to pick one of the sides of it. So, and he's going to be on that side, and he's going to criticize the other side. So,
and one more example: that guy from New York on the train,
Daniel Penny. Yeah.
Yep. Remember, he invited him to the Super Bowl.
He invited Kyle Rittenhouse to the. I think he was favorable to Kyle Rittenhouse as well. Did Kyle Rittenhouse meet him? I think he did meet. I think Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, they met a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, he picks sides. So
it's not crazy for us to think that he might not be on our side. Even I don't want to choose side. I don't want to be on the side of right. But I think at the end of the day, I can't. It's not crazy for me to think that he might not be on my side if something were to happen to me.
I can't argue with that. I mean, anytime there is a controversial racial issue, he does get involved and pick sides and takes the side of the white person. I wish I could say otherwise in his defense, but I can't. And he doesn't stay neutral. Now, they're going to bring up, though, President Obama, Trayvon Martin could be my son. So Obama did it once as well.
Right. What did Obama do?
When the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin case was taking place during Obama's term, and Obama was speaking favorably of Black Lives Matter, and he said, when I look at Trayvon Martin, he could be my son.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Trayvon, I think if Trayvon was white, it still wouldn't have been justified. But, I mean, he was.
But would Obama have spoken out on his behalf, though?
I mean, I would have spoken out on his behalf. Again, even if he was white, I would have spoken out on his behalf. That was wrong. George Zimmerman was wrong. I think he should be convicted.
I think so too, but he got off on it. I want to hear the clip you're talking about, though. Hang on a second.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
I'm interested. Now, this might be a little bit longer, but it says highlights, so let's see what they have here.
Times stand with Shiloh Hendricks.
Here's the thing, white people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, It's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. The way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity.
Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you just said.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
Well, it is about her.
Coming together and supporting another white person, and it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in the country.
Yeah, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do, quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away.
You just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you just...
Okay. In my opinion, obviously she sounds horrible, but in my opinion, I think she's almost just trolling. Really. You'll be amazed at how much money this woman can make by doing that. Yeah, she looks like a piece of shit on TV, but I'm assuming there's probably, what is the guy named Nick Fuentes types, probably people reaching out to her right now. 15 minutes of fame can make you a fortune. I'm just going to tell you that. Go ahead.
Then Kyle comment, hey, then Kyle, so he said she should have told her to say it, right? So he actually did. He told her to say it, and the guy in the middle, so the black guy in the middle got upset and was like, well, I don't want her to say this in front of me. And, justified, I get it. He said, don't say it in front of me. So, but yeah.
Did she say it? Did she actually say it? Okay. I won't play the whole clip, but you're hearing music in the background, I guess, because the person that posted it or something doesn't want it copyrighted. They added some extra sound, but my guess is, now she probably is a racist to go on TV and say some shit like this, but I think there could also be a trolling element to it. You can make a lot of money doing this. Just like Candace Owens makes a lot of money. Candace Owens makes a lot by, speaking hatred, basically hateful of black people. There's money to be made.
She makes a lot of money flip-flopping.
Recently she flip-flopped, but for the most part, Candace Owens' whole career has been anti-black. Just recently, because Trump went so fucking far, is getting, listen, I done better, being honest. My show did better, particularly with MAGA, when I was criticizing Biden about the economy and things like that. And as time has went on, Trump is doing things that are so controversial that even if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, it is getting harder to in some areas. And that's made my audience has turned mostly liberal, because I can only defend so much. When you're doing some things that are like, you taking pictures of yourself as the Pope, there's no defense for that.
It's like being I'm from Alabama, right? So I'm, big Auburn fan, all right? I hate Alabama with my whole spirit, all right?
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of people that aren't like that, Tim. There's a lot of people that, when Auburn's winning, of course I'm gonna be there. Of course I'm gonna be talking my shit. I'm gonna be calling all my homeboys, hey, yo, how about that ass whooping we put on y'all, all right? But then when we lose, of course, I'm gonna go sit down and I'm gonna go lay down and think about it. Think about this loss we just took. Wait till next year so I can talk my shit again.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. And I get what you're saying too, with her being a troll.
Yeah, I think she's trolling. I
don't think she's a troll. I think she's a real white supremacist. I think there are trolls out there. I think she's a real white supremacist. And I think there are real white supremacists that are starting to show up. I think they're showing up.
Oh, I believe that, because the FBI is suggesting that, which is why I often push back on the notion that we need to get rid of illegal immigrants because they're making a crime. No, the crime rate is here in this country. Illegal immigrants, you got a lot more crime, because there is no city in America, unless it's some small ass suburb, that is going to say, now that we got rid of the illegal immigrants, our crime rate has went down. The crime is not going down by getting rid of those people, because the crime is here. It's us. We're doing all the crime. It ain't them. But yeah, I think that I mean, listen, I'm not gonna. If the woman gets on TV and says the N word, there's no way I'm gonna say she's not a white supremacist. If you want to get on TV and say some crazy shit like that, because she's making it sound like she's for free speech. Okay, fine, you're for free speech, but like Piers Morgan said, that ain't got nothing to do with what you're talking about here. It just sounds to me like, and I get folks on my program that are like that, where they just want to say some racist shit. They don't want to talk about the subject. They don't want to have a debate. They just want to use that quick time to get in some racist shit. And that's what it sounds to me like this woman was trying to do. But that doesn't mean she ain't a genuine fucking racist, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I get it. End of the day, my big takeaway is I think people are. I think that people like her are starting to show their face a bit more because they feel like they're winning now. That's my big take.
They are. All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Ken Beasy. Thanks for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Moving on. And by the way, moving on with the program. Thank you. And oddly enough, if this is what's starting to become the norm, Black MAGA. I love talking to Black MAGA. I go to a lot of anytime you don't see me do my own program, I'm usually affiliating with MAGA and oftentimes Black MAGA. Black MAGA is not swayed from their decision. No matter how much of this shit comes out, Black MAGA is still adamant Trump is far better than Kamala Harris. And it's, they've had, I've seen a few, I think CNN did a show recently where Anderson Cooper was interviewing some Black MAGA and they're like, 100%, I would certainly vote for him again. So Black MAGA is not swayed yet. Even with this kind of stuff that may be coming out. White people aren't all the way honest or peaceful. Damn, Will. He says white people are not all the way honest or peaceful. They just want all the attention directed towards blacks to make them feel better like old times. I don't know if I agree to say white people. Nobody is all the way honest or peaceful. I mean, nobody is. But the diversionary points you make at the end, there's a lot of validity to that. People want to divert from other stuff so that you don't pay attention to what they may be doing or what they may have done historically. So they try to divert to something else. So I agree with half of that, but I don't think anybody is all the way peaceful or all the way honest. I mean, I think any group is like that. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything before I continue on with the program. That's a strong statement, though, Will. And I see it had Douglas says, "Oh my God, they're going to say that on a plane to Libya." If America was great for the majority of people, then it would stay that way automatically because of voting. You're a trooper. Well, in my opinion, when Trump says "Make America Great Again," because I get a lot of minorities that, well, when the fuck was America great for black people? The statement ain't meant for you. When people say we want to make America great again, they're talking about stuff like bringing Christianity back, maybe in schools, maybe in the home, two-parent households, bringing that back. Maybe the kids actually sitting down and eating dinner with the family and folks actually talking as opposed to being on their devices. That's the great again they're talking about. The black and brown experience, and even the female experience in America, it's not on their mind. That's not what they're not thinking about what black and brown people went through. It's not even part of the equation. You can call it privilege if you want, and there's some validity to it because you're privileged enough to think that there was a time in the past where America was great. The hell it wasn't for me, some might say. So you're going to bring privilege into the argument, you can, but they're not thinking about the black experience or the brown experience when they say "Make America Great Again." What you went through was decades ago, and you need to get over it. That's kind of the mindset on that. We're not thinking about we're thinking about going back to a better time in America, and we're gonna chop off what was happening to you at that time. Let's just go back to that time and imagine it without that happening. It's something like that. It's kind of like taking the experiences of black and brown people out of it. In other words, MAGA means indulging in magical thinking fantasy. But I'll give you something more darker, a little bit more sinister. I'll tell you this. Fact is, if you are white, the 1950s were better for you. They just were. We can call it whatever the hell we want to call it, but this is an uncensored show. I'm being honest with you. The 1950s were better if you're white. If you went to apply for a job, you didn't have to compete with people like me. So there were more opportunities for you. Certain neighborhoods, certain aspects of the country, you just did not have to deal with as much competition. The world was a better place for white people in that era. Call it what you want. I mean, I'm just giving it to you straight, no chaser. But fact is, there are eras of American history that were better for white people, particularly men, particularly white males. I mean, look, I think there's a statement you often see online that says something to the notion of, when everything is in your favor, equality feels like oppression. And I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's take America. Let's take America, the country, for example. Let's take white and black out of it. Just look at America, for example. The way our citizens live in this country, we are essentially at the top of the pyramid. Even poor Americans live better than middle-class citizens in most other countries around the world, with the exception of maybe a few. But for the most part, even if you're poor in America, you live better than middle-class citizens around the world. Now imagine if the world had to equal out, where everybody lives at the same level. Americans would feel like we're being oppressed. We would feel like we're losing. We wouldn't. This is what happened in this country. Once you made the races equal, the people at the top, it doesn't feel, they don't sense equality. It seems like oppression. It seems like a loss. I went from being king to one of the subjects. I can understand it. I do understand. I'm just letting you know that's how a lot of folks feel it. Looking in the comments though, he can't name an era or a decade when America was great. Ask him, what year was America great? Well, like I said, it depends on who you're asking. And I do believe that if you are a white male, 1950 America was better than 2025 America for white males. You just didn't have to compete with so many other people. Like I said, you knew if there was a line of people applying for a job, only the people that looked like you were likely to get it. You were going to get the hierarchy. Remember we talk about DEI all the time? Didn't earn it, just got it because you're such and such. That's the way it was for white males. You just knew that already. You didn't need to know who was going to follow up the mayor of your town. You already knew whoever it is going to be a white dude. You already knew that ahead of time. So, it was a better time for white males back then. Why stay living in such a horrible country? Because there's not, education could be one. Jay Williams just said, why stay living in such a horrible country? Education could be one reason why. Finances could be another reason why. And the country itself can often be a reason why. When you say, listen, if you don't like America, just leave. The world doesn't work that way. You can't just always leave. Like I mentioned before, first of all, it costs money to become an expat. Education is another one. You can't just, listen, English is the only fucking language I speak. So it's not like I can just get up and leave America and go to a host of different countries where I don't know anything about the language or the culture or anything. We can talk about illegal immigrants all the damn time, but you don't think that they have a problem coming to America when they don't speak the language? There's a reason why they affiliate with each other. If I was to be dropped off in Mexico City or Guadalajara somewhere, and there was not an American community or somewhere for me to affiliate with, I would be fucking lost. I don't speak the language. I don't know anything about what's going on here. So you can't just up and leave. You don't like it, I'll help you pack. It ain't that easy like that. And that's assuming the country of choice will let you in. All of that's involved in that. Not to mention your family. There's a whole bunch of other shit. If you don't leave, I'll help you pack. It just sounds good. But life is not that easy. Women didn't have to be bothered with voting. Ace, you almost make it sound like that's a good thing, but you're right. No, women couldn't vote. Expat is a word that is almost exclusively used by Americans. The rest of the world just calls it calls them immigrants. Is that true? Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I knew some Australians that moved to England and things like that. I don't think I ever heard them use the word expat. I guess you could be right about that. Okay, fair enough. Tim, stop your crying. You're not going anywhere, says Draco. No, I didn't say I was, but I did enjoy when I left America for the 5 or 6 years I was gone. I enjoyed it. And for a time, I didn't think I was coming back. Look, other than maybe the food and family, there was nothing else about America I really missed. Nothing. When I lived in Australia, other than the food and family, there was nothing else about this country I missed. I was totally fine where I was at. But I had family and all of that, and it kind of made me come back. But no, I was fine. Anytime before 1960 was when America was great. MAGA just needs to come out with it. If they could just tweak time to where the Civil War never happened or the South, won't it be perfect? For them, not for us. That's scary. That's scary. And like I said, a lot of people don't like to admit when they have that mindset. Hate don't always, there's a reason why these folks are walking down the street wearing masks and hoods and shit. They don't come out because you might see them at the doctor's office the next day or working in the supermarket, and they would adamantly deny that they were part of that protest carrying swastikas and shit. Most haters don't admit hate. They try to deny it. If you talk about burning down cities and looting and shit like that, I'll tell you one thing, at least most Black Lives Matter do show you who the fuck they are. But them folks, they keep it hidden. The whole cabinet is billionaires, That is true. Trump is for the folks with money. Anyhow, folks, I do got to step away for a moment. I will be back in about a half hour because I know there's a little bit more here. Some folks are waiting that I want to speak to. And apparently, I may have pissed off a person or two. And I don't like to lead a crowd angry. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm fine being a pincushion when the point makes sense. Nevertheless, I do got to step away for a minute. It's your boy Tim, the Handsome Liberal. I will see you momentarily because I got a little bit of business I got to take care of. Thank you for tuning in, by the way.